And now, for Larry and the boys, would like to tell you the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Shadrach, Shadrach.
There were 3 children from the land of Israel.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, they took a trip to the land of Babylon.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego took a lot of gold and he made an idol.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego. And he told everybody when they heard the music of the cornet. And he told everybody when they heard the music of the clarinet. And he told everybody when they heard the music of the horn. You must bow down and worship the idol Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego.
But the children of Israel would not bow down, not Shadrach.
Meshach, Abednego.
You couldn't fool them with no golden idol Shadrach.
Meshach, Abednego.
The king put the children in the fiery furnace.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, heap on the coals and the red hot brimstone.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, 7 times hotter, hotter than it ought to be.
Shadrach,
Meshach, Abednego, burned up the soldiers that the king had put there. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. But the Lord sent an angel with snowy white wings down in the middle of the furnace,
yeah,
talking to the children about the power of the gospel.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
Couldn't even harm a hair on the head of Shadrach.
Meshach, Abednego.
Laughing and talking while the fires had jumping.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
Oh, Nebuchadnezzar called.
Oh, yeah.
When he saw the power of the Lord, and they had a big time in the house of Babylon.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach!
يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب وهل ترى نرجع لوطان ولا نعيش غرايب كل شيء نظر كل شيء نظر
طالعين القصر الفوق يا نازلين سلموني طالعين القصر الفوق القصر الفوق يا نازلين سلموني على غزال عيون السود عيون السود هو السبب في تلف روحي كل شيء له نظر
يا حرام شيء
كل شيء له نظر
يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان
يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب يا حمام بتنوح ليه بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب ترى يرجع لوطن يرجع لوطن ولا نعيش غرايب كل شيء له نظر
يا حرام شيء
كل شيء له نظر
يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان يا ندان
كل شيء له نظر
بعدين ومن بعدين ومن بعدين ده كله علشان على ايه يا سيدي ورحمتي قلبي قلبي والنبي وصلته يا ولدي يلي جرى من قلبي سيبني الدواء والنبي يا سيدي بعدين احسانك على الله عليا
שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא ישן שומר ישראל, השם שומרך, השם צילך, על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to that. Welcome to the World Alliance of Qara'im, Torah study. I am Hakham Melech of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and we're going to get going here. So I hope you all had a good week. And we have the 7th day Hagim, we have the 7th day Moadim coming up pretty soon. And I think what I'll do is I'll start off talking a little bit about that. So let me share. So everybody has it. Let me share. Let's get rid of this too. Be gone, banner. Gone. Okay, so let me just share this screen right here. Do it like this. There it is. Okay, so this is the World Alliance of Qara'im website, www.worldallianceqara'im.org. And if you or anybody you know needs the holiday dates that are coming up for the 7th month, you can find it there. If you send me a message, I can also just send it to you. It's also in our, hold on a second, let me cut the music. Be gone, music. Whoosh, gone. Okay, and Right. So here it is. Okay. So these are the 7th month holiday dates. Anybody wants it right now, you can even take a screenshot of it. Okay. But it's also on the World Alliance of Qara'im website. That, again, that's www.worldallianceqaraim. You can see the spelling up above, and you can find it there if you need it. And I also put it in calendar form, and I put it along with the rabbinical dates. So as a rule, our holidays fall this year 2 days behind the rabbinical dates, which is really kind of an amazing thing. It just shows how far off the rabbinical calendar can be. And it can be sometimes up to 2 days off. I don't know if it can ever be 3 days off. I don't think so. I think 2 days is the maximum. And so that's the case. When the rabbis are declaring the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, which they consider the beginning of the year, then they are actually doing it 2 days before the moon is able to be seen. Now, it's possible that by very, very, very expert observers, it'll be seen 1 day later instead of 2 days later. And we could talk a little bit about that as well. But in general, by your average observer, it's not going to be seen until 2 days later. And after discussions with a number of people, I think we're going to switch over to average observance rather than expert observance. In other words, there are certain moon sightings, and this happened last month, that only really experts can see it. And I don't think that's consistent with the idea of the new moon being assigned for all of Israel. I think it should be an average moon sighting where your average person can walk out and without too much effort be able to see the new moon. And without getting into the gory details, that's one of the reasons we know for fact that this Yom Teruah is going to start on the evening of the 17th of September, because that's going to be the first day that the moon will definitely be easily visible by all observers. It's also the 30th day after the previous new moon observance. So that's why there's no ifs, or ifs, ands, or buts. That's why there's no doubts about it. The 17th, the evening of the 17th, will definitely be the first day of Yom Teruah this year for us. Okay, and again, it's 2 days later. Then it's basically as the rabbinical Rosh Hashanah ends, which lasts this is their only holiday that lasts. No, that's not true. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that wrong. All of their holidays actually last 2 days or last an extra day. There's only one holiday that doesn't, and that's Yom Kippurim, but which shows that they can do 1 day when they need to, because it doesn't make sense to fast for 2 days in a row. But all of their other holidays, if you're outside of the land of Israel, extend an extra day, and Rosh Hashanah extends an extra day for anyone, whether you're in the land of Israel or outside of the land of Israel. But the fact that they keep a 1 day Yom Kippur does show that if they really want to keep a 1 day holiday, they can keep a 1 day holiday. It's just that there would be, mass rebellion if they told everybody to fast for 48 hours in a row rather than 24 hours in a row. At any rate, if you need the calendar, there it is on the World Alliance of Qara'im. It's also in, let me just get back here. It's also in the WhatsApp group, the World Alliance of Qara'im WhatsApp group, which I encourage everybody to join if you haven't joined already. If you go to, let's see, actually, it's in the announcement for this Torah study. I always publish the link to the group. And it's also we also have the Biblical Calendar Society that's run by me and my good friend Bruce Brill, who's in Israel and who lives in Israel in Tekoa or near Tekoa. And so if you need, I'm sorry, and it's also the in the Biblical Calendar Society Facebook group, as well as in the Biblical Calendar Society WhatsApp group. And if you haven't joined that, I encourage you to join it as well. So Shabbat Shalom, Stephen Bach. Shabbat Shalom, Jordan, my good friend Jordan. I know who that is. A little peace sign. And so that's that. So that, to make a long story short, today is the Saturday, the 9th of September. So our Yom Teruah is going to start not this coming Sunday night, but a week from this Sunday. So it's going to start on the evening of Sunday, September 17th. It will end on the evening of Monday, September 18th. And the rest of the holiday dates are there on the calendar. Okay, does anyone have any questions or any comments about the holidays? Anybody want to ask any questions? No? If not, then let's get into the Torah study. Oh yeah, and some good news. Let me put my face back on. Some good news. I think our internet connectivity problems are over. Starlink arrived this week. We set it up. It's on the roof, and man, this thing is fast. I mean, I gotta show you guys. Hold on a second. Let's see how I can do this. I've got to present. Check this out, man. I mean, this is some cool stuff. It's the fastest internet I've ever had in my life. That's for sure. So we go from, I think usually on Saturday afternoons when I would do the shiurim, when I would do the Torah studies, we went from our local internet service provider, which actually in the little village I lived in, they haven't even installed fiber optics. It's still the old technology, the ADSL technology that runs through the old analog phone lines, if you remember the ADSL technology. And I think we would usually get about 10 megabits per second. That was the average if we were lucky. And then on times when there was high usage of the internet, then there would either be periods where it would black out altogether, as you well know, or the bandwidth would go down to, let's say, 5 megabits per second or something like that. Well, now with the Starlink, I mean, this thing is amazing, really. Okay, I got to show you guys. Hold on a second. Let's do this. Present, share screen. I can do, let's try this. I can just do it right here, actually. What am I sharing? Okay, I could share Torah already, and then I can do it on Torah. Okay, hold on a second. Present, share screen, window, Toida, boom. That's Toida. Let's make me smaller. And then we're going to go over here to Toida. And then we could do speed test. You can do Google. Run speed test. Hold on a second. But cancel. 1 second. It's on the Starlink. Okay, let's do this. Come on. Oh, that's weird. Now it's only getting about 35. I don't know why it's getting so low. It usually gets about 150 to 238. Okay, and the upload speed. 10, that's pretty good. Let's try it one more time. It usually gets around 150 megabits per second. Hold on, I gotta try it one more time. I don't know. It's maybe there's a lot of any rate, maybe there's a lot of use or a lot of demand on the system right now. So we're only getting 40, but 40 is more than enough for anything we need to do. And let's see here. Let me do another speed test. I could do the UCLA speed test. Let's try UCLA. Just 1 second. Speed test UCLA. Do one more. So here it is, SpaceX Starlink. And off we go. Let's see what we're getting here. Connecting. I'd like to know my location there. There we go. Look at that. 151, 168, 178, 166, 180, 200. Come on, baby. You could do it. 200, 206. There we go. Now we're talking. 190, average of 191 megabits per second download speed, upload speed. This is usually around what we're getting, around somewhere between 10 and 20, which is much more. Before it was usually around, I think it was around 1 megabit per second upload speed, and now it's usually 10 or 20. And so that's it. That's the Starlink right there. Here you can even see. Oh no, I don't want to try speed test for Mac. You can even see it mentions it here. SpaceX Starlink. Man, this thing was so easy to set up. We actually ran it down from the roof, down the chimney, into the fireplace, and like right into the area where we keep all the routers. And it was just super easy to set up. It's just like lodged. It's kind of like it has a heavy base, and so we put it on the roof. We have these kind of slanted tile roofs, like the kind you would see in Israel or Southern Europe and stuff like that. You know, like the red tile roofs, and it just like sits there and it doesn't move. It's really like nicely. It's like a heavy, solid base, and the machine itself is very heavy. It's really good. So, to make a long story short, what that means is that should be the end of our problems with the internet connectivity, where sometimes the sound isn't good, sometimes the video isn't good, sometimes there are periods where it just breaks up. Those days are over. We've got 200 megabits per second satellite Starlink internet service, and it should just be zipping along. So I'm happy. I'm a happy camper, and it helps me with a lot of other stuff as well. When I do my day job, I need the internet. I need high-speed internet, and it's always been a problem that I didn't have it, and now I have it. So good times. All right, let's get into Torah. We are really approaching the end of the book of Deuteronomy, which means we are approaching the end of the entire Torah, doesn't it? So, and then we start from the beginning. It's unbelievable. Now, just quick announcement. In between the end of the Torah and the beginning of the Torah, there are kind of these intermediate weeks around Sukkot where there is no Parsha. There are a couple of extra weeks. We're still going to try to do Torah studies. In fact, I'll try to add extra Torah studies on the Chagim. We'll do Torah studies about those Chagim themselves, and we'll do maybe topical Torah studies, something that I've mentioned a bunch of times and that I have wanted to do. So we'll do on various topics, like for instance, the role of the ger, or the position of the ger within the Torah, is one that we started, and I'd like to finish. It's an important one, obviously, and so that would be one topic, and maybe some other topics. So that's the plan. Drink some sparkling water. No, this is not Mountain Dew. This is sparkling water, one of my favorite drinks. I really don't drink any soda whatsoever. Once in a while, that's about it. I drink a lot of sparkling water, and I drink a lot of kombucha. So that's that. Okay, so let's get down to business here. We are going to learn some Torah, some Torah, as a good friend of mine always used to say. And so I've got to do this again. I've got to do present, stop screen, present, share screen, window, Torah. And also we've gotten rid of that whole picture in a picture kind of thing that we used to see all the time. So the technological situation is getting better, slowly but surely. Okay, let's bring up the Torah. Let's get rid of the speed test. I'll leave it maybe in the middle. I want to run another speed test just for fun. Oh, and I wanted to do something kind of fun today. Hold on a second. Let me just find the website. We're going to do something a little fun. And it's more than just fun. I think it really gives a lot of perspective. What I'd like to do is, let me just find the website here. Copy. Let's see if we can do this over here. Did it pick it up? Yes, it did. Boom. So you have to ignore that crossover. That's the way it works. Let's read the Paleo Hebrew this time. It's really fun. It's interesting. If you don't know how to read Paleo Hebrew, this is a good time to kind of learn it. It's really not that hard. In a certain sense, it's even easier than the regular Ashurit Hebrew, the regular Assyrian script. So this is the standard Hebrew script, the Assyrian script, and it's called Assyrian because it was really used by the Assyrians, and later it became used by the Aramaic speakers. So it's this typical script used to express written Aramaic. But as we know, the ancient Israelites did not use this script, the square script or the Assyrian or the Ashurit script. They used what is called the Paleo Hebrew script, and there were developments in the script over time. It kind of moved away from looking like pictures of things and becoming more abstract. It's attributed ultimately to the Phoenicians, are claimed to be the progenitors or the creators of this type of language. But it was adopted by the Hebrews, and this is the way that Hebrew would have been written until the Assyrian script was adopted much later, probably, I don't know exactly when. I'm going to guess probably well into the Second Temple period, maybe around the beginning of the Second Temple period or well into the Second Temple period. But so let's have some fun today, and let's actually read in the Paleo Hebrew script, okay? And it's more than just fun. You really get an idea of what the ancient Israelites were looking at and seeing when they read these texts. So the ancient Israelites most of the time wouldn't have read it, they would have heard it, because there were very limited copies of any texts. There were no printing presses or anything like that. Having a Torah scroll was very rare, and that's one of the reasons the king is required to write one or have one written. That's an explicit mitzvah in the Torah, and to read from it day and night. And so the king would have maybe had a copy. The priests may have had one or maybe a couple of copies in the temple area. And what is going on? Why is there cats screaming? And who knows? Maybe in the local cities, in some of the bigger cities, maybe there would have been a copy in the gates where the judges met. But it's very doubtful that many, if any, private citizens had copies of these Torah scrolls, and most of the ancient Israelites would have learned the Torah by just listening to it or hearing about it rather than actually reading it. But for those who did get the chance to read it, this is what they would have seen. They would not have seen these square letters, the Assyrian script. They would have seen these Paleo Hebrew letters. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to learn the Torah, but more than fun, like I said, it really gives insight as to way the ancient Israelites would have seen the letters when they read it. Notice there are no vowels, okay? And there are, in this, they use a kind of an underline as an interword marker. In a lot of the ancient Hebrew scripts, you'll see dots in between the words. But other than that, there were really no markers for in between the words. Not all the time is there a dot in between the words. And as we said, no vowels. So you kind of have to figure out from the context what form of the word is being represented by just the consonants. And that's not as hard as it seems. As I always like to point out, and as many people point out, if you go to modern Israel today, you will see that just about everything is written with Hebrew consonants, but not vowels, like this. Okay, this is the way you'll see 99% of Hebrew in Israel. The newspapers are all written just with consonants, not with vowels. The only time you'll ever see vowels is if there's ambiguity. Let's say the word could have two meanings in a certain context, and then vowels are added, let's say in the newspaper, to clarify the exact meaning of the word in that context. Or if they're words which are not common, let's say somebody's name or a foreign word that's being transcribed or being transliterated into Hebrew, then you might see vowels. But most of the words you see, 99, if not more than 99% of the words you'll see in a book, in a newspaper, on anywhere you go, menus, signs on stores, are all going to have just the consonants and not the vowels. So if an entire country of 6 million plus Jews can read just about anything they need to on a day-to-day basis with consonants and no vowels, then so could the ancient Israelites have read the Torah or read anything without vowels and made some sense out of it. But nonetheless, it really does give another kind of level of understanding of the way that these texts had to be read and assimilated and understood. So we're going to have some fun, and we're going to get some insight into the way the ancient Israelites would have seen and understood it. And we're going to do it in the hello, Deborah Palmtree. Hello, Yoshi Ben. Hello, Suri. Nice to see you guys. So let's do that. So what do I have going on here? Wait a second. Gotta go back to Torah. Okay, I'm over here. Let's bring this over here. No, that's not that. That's not that. Where'd we go? There we go. Okay, so we've got to go to Deuteronomy. So where are we? We're starting off in Deuteronomy. Where is it again? Deuteronomy 29. Deuteronomy 29:9. Okay, so let's go to Deuteronomy 29:9. Okay, we'll go here. So just to recap, okay, we were dealing with the curses. I really think we should go back and just finish this off. We're reading through these curses here, and then I just got so tired I had to stop right in the middle of the curses. So we're almost at the beginning of this parsha. Hello, go to the next page. There you go, 29, and we'll start. Our parsha starts right here in 29:9. Well, again, sometimes the numbering is off depending on which version you're using. So here it starts in 29:10, but there it is, Nitzavim. Okay. And so we're only a little bit behind it, so we might as well catch up. So I'll go back to 28, and I won't do the paleo yet because I want to go through this section quickly. So here are the blessings. We can start with the curses. I think we got kind of halfway through the curses, and this will lead us right into our parsha that we're going to do this week. Okay. So any comments, any questions before we begin? Anybody? No? If not, then let's get going. So we're going to start here in Deuteronomy 28:15. And I will read. והיה אם לא תשמע בקול יהוה אלוהיך לשמור לעשות את כל מצוותיו וחוקותיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום ובאו עליך כל הקללות האלה Wahisigucha. So all of these curses are going to come upon you, and they're going to catch up to you. Hisigucha. It's almost like, whatever you do eventually catches up to you. And that's exactly what the Torah, it's literally the word that's being used here. These curses will catch up to you. So if you disobey God's word, eventually it catches up to you. Okay? Arur tab'ir wa arur atan ba sadeh, in the city and in the fields. And remember, this is in many cases the opposite of the blessings that we saw. Here we see in Deuteronomy 28:3, Baruch atah ba'ir u'baruch atah ba'sadeh. Blessed are you in the city, and blessed are you in the field. And by the way, the city and the field are two opposites. It means in the city and outside the city, in the countryside. So maybe a better way to translate this actually would be down here. Cursed are you in the city, and cursed are you in the country. That would be a better colloquial translation. Arur tan echa umishar techa, your fruit basket and your kneading basket or your kneading bowl. Arur pri bitnecha pri admatecha shegar lafecha wa ashterot sonecha. Cursed will be the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your land, and the shechar alafecha wa ashterot sonecha. And we have this in our list of animals, but I'm not going to go to it there. So shechar alafecha is your cattle. And by the way, aleph, if you see the word alafecha, you see the word in there aleph, you've heard of, probably that the first letter of the alphabet, or as we call it in Hebrew, the aleph bet, is aleph, which became a eventually in English. And we spoke about earlier that the Paleo Hebrew, what we're calling the Paleo Hebrew, went through a process of development. And if we look, let's see if we can find stages in the development of Paleo Hebrew. Find it. There we go. So there's a good chart. Evolution of the Hebrew scripts. And let's see, we can visit this website and get the picture bigger. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so here, this image, let me make this bigger. Whoa, where'd you go? Right back here. Okay, so you can see, so what they're calling here, I guess they're calling this the Paleo Hebrew. I've also called it the Proto-Sinaitic script. So this is the Aleph. This is what became what we know in the Assyrian script, the Aleph. Okay, and here you can see it's the head of an ox, the head of cattle, right? And this is not exactly. It is the word that we're seeing right here. It's alafecha, shchar alafecha, Here it's translated as your cattle. Okay, so alafecha is your cattle. A single cattle would be in aleph, and that's exactly what we see here. Okay, the head of an ox, the head of one cattle. Is that grammatically correct? Of one ox, and because the word for ox starts with an ah sound, that came to represent the ah sound, and we still to this day call it an aleph. In English, we call it an A, but in Greek, for instance, they call it an alpha. For instance, they call it an alpha. It's the same as aleph, and it all comes from this original Proto-Sinaitic, or I guess what they're calling here Paleo, this Paleo script, and the same with the other ones as well. This is bet, but it's actually a house. How do you say house in Hebrew and in Semitic languages? It's bayit or bet, and that became what we know in the Assyrian script as this letter over here, the bet. It became beta in the Greek, and it became B in the English, and so on and so forth. Each of these letters that developed into the modern Hebrew script, or the Assyrian Hebrew, the Ashurit Hebrew script, and into, for instance, the Greek letters, and really just about all of the Western lettering systems derive from this in one way or another. So even the Cyrillic script that's used, for instance, in Russia, and the Greek script that's used in Greece, and I'm trying to think of other scripts. There are a number of other ones, but they all ultimately derive from this Paleo or Proto-Sinaitic or Paleo Hebrew, not Paleo Hebrew, but this Paleo script that we see right here. Okay, it's really interesting stuff. So let's see, what are they actually saying here? Samaritan script, the Proto-Hebrew script, Phoenician script, Proto-Canaanite pictographs. So this is it right here, right? So an aleph, a bet, a gimel, a dalet, hey. This is what we saw right here. This is Kituv Proto-Canaani, the Proto-Canaanite pictographs. Like other ancient writing systems, the Hebrew alphabet originally was written using a pictographic or cuneiform-like script, and that's what we see here, okay? It wasn't technically pictographic. Pictographic means that the letters represent a concept. Here, the letters don't represent the concept. The innovation of these types of scripts was that the letters represent a sound, as opposed to, for instance, cuneiform. I think certain types already do represent sounds. But for instance, Egyptian hieroglyphics, which also is a bit complicated, but at least some of the symbols in Egyptian hieroglyphics represent concepts rather than sounds. But here, the innovation is that each of these symbols represents sounds, and they usually represent the sound with which the word that the symbol represents starts. So, like we said, aleph, okay, starts with an ah sound. Means an ox, and here it's we could see the ox head, and that became the ah sound. Bet, okay, a bayit or a bet is a house. Bet starts with the b sound, and so that became that symbol for house came to represent the b sound. Here, dalet is a delet, is a door, and that came to represent the d sound. Ayin, for instance, over here is an I. We even call the letter ayin to this day. We call these letters all the same to this day. And you can see originally it looked like an I because the Semitic word for I is ayin, and so on and so forth. Okay, so getting back to where we were. So we are in Deuteronomy, and so basically the offspring of your, or basically the offspring of your cattle and the offspring of your flock, just to put it in very simple terms. Okay, verse 19. Arur atan bi'voecha wa arur atan bi'seitecha. Cursed are you in your coming, and cursed are you in your going. Oh God, it's so hard to highlight sometimes. There we go. Okay. Wa yishalach Yahweh b'cha et ha mi'era et hamihuma wa et hami'aret וכל משלח ידך אשר תעשה עד הישמדך ועד עבדך מהר מפני רוע מעלליך אשר עזבתני. Okay, you can translate that along by yourself. Let's go on to verse 21 because I want to get through this more quickly. ידבק יחווה בך את הדבר עד כלותו אותך מעל האדמה אשר אתה בשמה לרשתה. So now you're going to get this thing called dever, which is translated as usually plague or something like that. It's also one of the 10 plagues in Egypt. So in other words, what Yahweh is saying is the plagues that I put upon Egypt, now some of them I'm going to put upon you if you disobey my covenant. And we've seen that in other places in the Torah, that if you disobey the covenant, then all the diseases that came upon Egypt, I will bring upon you. Okay. Verse 22. Yakkecha Yahweh b'shachefet ובקדחת ובדלקת ובהרהור ובחרב ובשיטפון ובירקון ורדפוך עד עבדך. So all kinds of different diseases, they will pursue you until you are destroyed. וחיו שמך אשר על ראשך נחושת והארץ אשר תחתיך ברזל. The sky that is above you, above your heads, shall be like bronze, and the land that is below you, the earth that is below you, shall be like iron. In other words, everything's going to be shut up. It's not going to be a fertile land. Everything's going to be hard and dry and brown. ייתן יהוה את מטר ארצך אבק ועפר מן השמיים ירד עליך עד ישמדך. So Yahweh will make your rain, the rain upon your land, it will be of dust and how do you say afar again in English? What's the translation they give here? Powder? No, I don't like that translation. There's a certain word I'm looking for. Dust, and avak is dust, and afar is I can't remember the word that I usually translate into. Okay, we'll go with powder for now. Okay, so dust and powder. Mina shamayim yered elech ad isham. So in other words, instead of rain coming down, it's just going to be dry dust coming down, and the land below you is going to be hard and brown, and the sky above you is going to be closed and brown. Right? Not painting a very nice picture. Yitencha Yahweh nigaf lifnei oivecha b'derech had tzeh elau u'shiv'at derachim tanus lefanau u'hayita לזעווה לכל ממלכות הארץ. So Yahweh will make you nigaf is like plagued or basically pursued, plagued. How do they translate here? Defeated. I don't like that translation, but okay. We'll go with destroyed or defeated before your enemies. You're going to go out to your enemies in one row. You're going to go out in one row, in one column, and you're going to flee from them in 7 columns, and you will become an abomination, or let's see, what's a better translation here? Ze'awa, be like an embarrassment, an abomination, here they say troublesome. I don't like that. All right, we'll go with an embarrassment or an abomination. L'chol mamlechot haaretz, to all of the kingdoms of the land, of the world. Okay, and this is again the opposite of what we saw in the blessing up above. In the blessing up above, we saw that your enemies will come out against you in 1 column and they will flee from you in 7 columns. Here, you come out against your enemies in 1 column and you flee from them in 7 columns. So everything is in the curse, or many things in the curse are a mirror image of what we saw above in the blessing. Verse 26. So your dead bodies, your corpses, will become food for all of the birds of the sky and all of the wild animals on the land. And there'll be no one to chase them away, no one to scare them away. In other words, there's not going to be anyone left to even prevent the wild animals from consuming your dead bodies that are strewn all over the place as food. That's how bad it's going to be. Verse 27. Yahweh b'shachin Misraim. Shachin was another one of the plagues. Ofalim. And famously here, this is read in synagogues not as Ofalim, but as Tachorim. Ofalim are kind of like, they translate it sometimes as boils, as hemorrhoids. Let's see how they translate it here. They don't even translate it. They just transliterate it. Uva Ofalim. That's weird. And here they just translate it. They only translate Tachorim as tumors, but it basically means hemorrhoids, tumors, something like this. So the important thing, or one of the interesting things to mention here, is the shachin, boils, and it even says shachin Mitzrayim, the boils of Egypt, and it's pretty clearly referring to that. The boils, the shachin, was one of the 10 plagues, just as the dever that we saw up above, sometimes translated as cattle disease or plague, was also one of the 10 plagues that was brought upon Egypt. So that's the second of the 10 plagues that has been mentioned that were brought upon Egypt, that if you disobey the covenant, God is now going to bring them, Yahweh is now going to bring them upon you, Israel. Okay? And you can't, and you will not be able to cure yourselves of them. Verse 28. Yahweh b'shira'on u'b'iwaron u'b'timahon levav. Yahweh will plague you, or will strike you with insanity. Ivaron would be with blindness, u'b'timahon, and timahon would be terror. So insanity, blindness, and terror in your hearts. Not a pretty picture. Almost sounds like the Holocaust. And one might claim that the Holocaust was punishment for disobedience of the covenant. I actually wrote an article about that, and it's on Karaite Insights. Maybe I should just post a link to it. Let's see here. And I wrote this. I was teaching in a high school in Jerusalem, so many years ago, in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003. And it was this liberal left-wing school. And basically, if you didn't express a left-wing view, it was understood you keep your mouth shut. And I had to keep my mouth shut for an entire school year, dying basically to show these young men and women what I thought was the right way. And finally, at the end, I published this letter and I handed it out to the entire student body, and I was fired. I was fired the next day. It's a longer story than that, but that's the basic idea of the story. So let's see. But basically, it speaks about, if you're interested in it, it basically speaks about how the Holocaust. It's pretty strong article. I was pretty radical back then. I still am. But it basically speaks about how the Holocaust was a punishment for disobeying the covenant, and specifically, in my opinion, for the Jews holding strong or clinging to rabbinical Judaism and not returning to the real Torah and not returning to the land of Israel. So actually, I wrote here. I can actually read this. In 2002, after spending almost an entire school year teaching at a particular high school in Jerusalem, where the students were indoctrinated daily with anti-Torah and anti-Israel philosophies, absolutely 100% true, I spent almost 2 weeks of my free time in a secluded spot thinking and writing. The result was the following article, which I handed out to my students upon its completion. I was fired the next day. Therefore, I am particularly proud of this article, as its impact was great enough to shake the arrogant foundations of a fine institution of learning whose main purpose was to turn impressionable Israeli youth away from our ancient values. It's absolutely 100% true, everything I wrote there. So I'll post a link to it right here. If anybody's interested, you can take a look at it. Boom. There we go. I can even put it up here. So check it out. Let me know what you think. And in the meantime, we're going to go back to our Torah. I can close this out. Yeah, I was pretty radical back then. I still am pretty radical, but I've calmed down a little bit. Just a little. Verse 29. وحييت מי משש בצהריים כאשר ימשש העיוור באפלה ולא תצליח את דרכיך והיית אך השוק ורזול כל הימים ואין מושיע. So you will be מממש בצהריים כאשר יממש העיוור באפלה. You're going to grope around in the afternoon, in the daylight. Tzorayim really means daylight. Sohar means a window or a place where the sun can shine through. It's the word that's used for window in Noah's Ark. He was told to make window, to make sohar in the ark, and so tzoharayim in modern Hebrew really means the afternoon, but tzorayim really means the daylight. So you're gonna grope around in the daylight as a blind person gropes around in the darkness. So not a good picture. And your ways will not be successful. And you'll be only oppressed and robbed all days, all of your days, and there will be nobody to save you. Okay, verse 30. We're in Deuteronomy 28:30. Isha ti'ares wa'ish aher ish gavena or ish glena. We have here another ketiv kri or kri ketiv. Ketiv kri, where one word is written and then another word is read. And the word that's written here is ish gavena. But the word that's said in the synagogues is ish galena because it's considered not polite to say ish gavena, which means basically to have sex with or have sexual relations with, even though it's said many other times throughout the Torah. But I think here the context is kind of referring to rape. So in order to tone it down a little bit in the synagogues, then the reading tradition became to say this other word yishaglena, but the written word in the actual text is ishchavena. So what does it say here? You will ti'ares, you will become engaged, or you will be scheduled to marry a woman, and another man will have sexual relations with her, will sleep, will consummate with her. You will build a house and you will never dwell in it. You will plant a vineyard, but you will never be able to harvest the grapes from it. Verse 31. Shorcha tavuach le'ainecha v'lo tochal mimenu. You will see your ox slaughtered before your very eyes, but you will not eat anything from it. You will not eat of it. Hamorcha gazul milefanecha v'lo yashuv lach. Your donkey will be stolen from before you, and it will not be returned to you, or it will not come back to you. Tzoncha nitunot your sheep or your flock, animals, sheep and goats will be given to your enemies, and there will be nobody to save you, nobody to rescue you. And this happened, all of this kind of stuff happened throughout Jewish history. The curse was fulfilled many times over through our rebelliousness and our stubbornness. 32. Banecha v'notecha nitkunim la'am acher, v'ainecha ro'ot v'chalot alehem kol hayom wa'en le'el yadecha. So your sons and your daughters will be given to a foreign nation, to another people's. Wa'ainecha ro'ot, your eyes will see. With chalot, and they will become dim, or they will just, I guess the idea being that they will, with chalot, they'll just kind of, be worn out from seeing all of these horrible things. Kol hayom, from seeing all of these horrible things all day long. And there will be no one powerful enough, la'el yadecha, literally to come to the aid of your hand, or to be powerful as your hand. I don't know how to. I just have to only paraphrase it in English. There'll be no one strong enough to come to your aid, is the way I would translate it. Verse 33. Pri ad mot ha mechol Yigiacha yochal am asher lo yadata. So the fruit of your land and all of your weariness, all of your labor, all of your hard labor, maybe would be a better way to translate it. Yochal am asher lo yadata. A people that you don't know will eat it. So all your hard work in your fields will come to naught because the people of another country, of another nation, will eat all that you worked for. Wahita rak ashuk we ratzutz kol yamim, and you'll be only pressed and beaten down or stomped upon or stampeded upon. And they translated it here. Ratzutz, crushed. Kol yamim, all of your days, all of the days. Verse 34. Wahita mishura. And you will become insane. You will become insane. That's literally what it says. From the things that your eyes will see. Verse 35. Shachin is, we saw that up above, usually translated as boils, like boils on your skin. Again, one of the 10 plagues that was brought upon Egypt. Al habirkayim wa al hashukayim. So on your knees and on your the shok is the calves or the thighs, depending on what the context is. Here they just translate as the legs. Asher lo tuchal leherapeh, and you will not be able to be cured of it. It will be incurable. Mikaf raglecha ad kodkodcha, from the bottom of your feet until the top of your head, until the point on the top of your head. Verse 36. Yolech Yahweh otcha wa'et malkecha asher takim alecha el goy asher lo yadata ata wa avotecha we avadta sham Elohim achirim etz wa'aven. So Yahweh will lead you away, you and your king, and this happened, will lead you and your king away, asher takim alecha, and the king you will place over you, or you put over you, will lead you and the king which you will place over you away. El goy asher lo yadata, to a people you don't know, to a nation you don't know. Ata wa avotecha, you and your forefathers did not know. Vavalta sham Elohim acharim, and there you shall worship foreign gods of wood and stone. You shall worship foreign gods, wood of stone. So I always I don't think it's literally what the Torah is referring to, but if you look at the other two major Abrahamic religions, Christianity, what's their main symbol? It's a Jesus, a cross with a Jesus on it, which is usually made of wood. And what is the main symbol of Islam? And that's the stone, the Kaaba in Mecca. I don't literally think the Torah is referring to that. I just think that was kind of like a nice, cute take on it. But that very much did happen, right? We were led to foreign nations, to Babylon, which was eventually taken over by the Medians and the Persians, and we were surrounded by all these foreign gods. To the Syrians, we were exiled by Tiglath-Pileser III, spoken about in 2 Kings chapter 17, where the northern Israelites, many of them were exiled to a foreign land, and in these places, we were enticed or even forced to worship foreign idols. In fact, that's one of the reasons that Daniel and his friends got in trouble. They were supposed to bow down to a foreign idol, and they refused to do it. And they were then thrown into, was it the furnace or the lion's den? I think that's where they were thrown into the furnace. I think the next time they were thrown into the lion's den. Okay. In fact, that's what that song is about that I played before, the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That was those were their Babylonian names. Wahaita le Shama le Mashal u Leshnina Nechol ha'amim asher nahagecha Yahweh Shama. And you'll become a name, or I don't know how they translate it here. An astonishment. From Shamim. Okay. An astonishment, a byword or a proverb, lishnina, and an abject lesson. Shnina would be like, oh God, I wish we had more time to go through this. This is really interesting stuff, but I want to get to this week's parsha. Basically, you'll become a lesson to all on what not to do. You will become what? How do they say it in modern English? You'll become a this is a certain phrase that I can't think of. A cautionary tale to all of the rest of the nations. They will hear about what happened to you, and they'll say, "Oh boy, thank God that didn't happen to us. Look what happened to those people. They got thrown out of their land. They were destroyed. They were exiled to foreign lands." So among all of the peoples, to where Yahweh will drive you out. Okay. Verse 38. זרע רב תוציא השדה ומעט תאסוף כי יחסלנו הרבה. So you will plant a lot of seeds in your field, but you will gather very little gather very little produce in, because the locusts will completely annihilate it, will completely destroy it. Verse 39. Ikramim tita ועבדת ויין לא תשתה ולא תאגור כי תאכלנו התולעת. So you will plant vineyards with avadata, and you will work them, but you will not drink any wine from them. Velo te'agor, and you will not store up any wine, or maybe it's speaking about grapes, probably speaking about wine. You will not drink or store up any wine, ki tochlena hatolaat, because the worms will eat it. Okay, so the worms will destroy your vineyards. The locusts will destroy your crops, and you'll work hard and you'll have little to show in return, because God, Yahweh, is going to make sure it all gets destroyed. Zetim yi'u lecha v'chol gvulecha v'shemen lo tasuch ki ishal zetecha. There will be olive trees or olives throughout all of your land, or throughout all of your borders, but you will not press any oil, or maybe it's not press, but tasuch. You will not pour upon yourselves any oil, ki shal zetecha, because all of the olives will die. Okay, verse 41. So I think we get the idea, right? Banim ubanot tolid velo yi'u lach ki yilchu bashevi. You will give birth to sons and daughters, but they will not remain with you. They will not be yours, because they will go out into capture. They will be captured in war, in other words, by a foreign nation. Verse 42. Kol etzacha upri admatecha yirash tzalzal. So all of your trees and etzacha upri admatecha, all of your trees, meaning your fruit trees, and upri admatecha, and the fruit that comes out of the earth, yirash shall waste away. Tzatzal is another insect. Here they translate as swarms of locusts. Yirash, so will destroy, I guess, or consume. Swarms of locusts will consume. Okay, so we get the idea. Hager asher b'kirbecha ya'ale alecha ma'ala wa'ata tered mata. The stranger that lives among you, literally it says the ger. So then the question becomes, does this mean the convert, or does this just mean strangers have moved into the land? We're not going to even touch that right now. It's too long a topic, but we'll just go with the stranger that is in your midst. Ya'ale alecha shall rise up over you, or shall become dominant over you. Mala, more and more, or higher and higher. Mata, and you will go down lower and lower. Verse 44. Hu yilwecha ve'ata lo tilwenu. He will lend to you. He will lend money to you, and you will not lend money to him. Hu lerosh ve'ata ti'e le'zanav. He will be the head, and you will become like a head, and he will become like a tail. I'm sorry. He will become the head, and you will become the tail. Verse 45. Va'u alecha kol ha'klalot ha'ela ve'redafucha va'yisigucha ad hi shamdach כי לא שמעת בקול יהוה אלוהיך לשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו אשר ציווך. And when and all of these curses will come upon you and chase after you and catch up to you. In other words, they're going to catch, all of us is going to catch up to you if you disobey my covenants. Ad hishamdach, until you are destroyed. Kilo shamata b'kol Yahweh, because you did not listen to the voice of Yahweh Elohecha, your God, lishmor mitzvotav, to keep his commandments, v'chukotav, and the statutes, asher tziwach, which he commanded you. Verse 46. W'hayu b'cha le'ot u'lemofet u'b'zaracha ad olam, and you will become a sign and a wonder, you and your descendants, your seed, forever and ever. In other words, people are going to look at you and they're going to be like, wow, look what happened to these people. All they had to do was keep the commandments of their God. He wasn't asking really for too much. They couldn't even do that, and now look at what happened to them. And this kind of all happened throughout Jewish history, didn't it? In one way or another. תחת אשר לא עבדת את יהוה אלוהיך בשמחה ובטוב לבב מרוב כל. Because you did not serve Yahweh your God in happiness and rejoicing, and in a good heart, or with a good heart, merov kol, and this could be translated in a number of different ways, but maybe one way to translate it is because you had so much of everything. In other words, you became rich and you forgot who put you in your high position to begin with. Verse 48. ועבדת את אויביך אשר ישלחנו יהוה בך ברעב ובצמא ובערום ובחוסר כל, ונתן עול ברזל על צוואריך עד השמידו אותך. You will be slaves to your enemies. אשר ישלחנו יהוה בך, who Yahweh will send upon you, and you will serve them bira'av, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in lacking everything. Almost sounds like the Holocaust, right? Natan ol barzel al tza'warecha, and he will place a yoke of iron upon your necks, ad ishmido otach, until he destroys you. Verse 49. יישא יהוה עליך גוי מרחוק מקצה הארץ כאשר ידעה הנשר גוי אשר לא תשמע לשונו. And Yahweh will send upon you a nation from far away, מקצה הארץ, from the edge of the earth, from the ends of the earth, כאשר ידעה הנשר. Just as a nasher, how do you say nasher in English again? An eagle? I think in English it's an eagle. A hawk, eagle, what is it? An eagle. Just as the eagle swoops down, goy asher lo tishma lishono, a nation whose language you don't know, you've never heard. Verse 50. Goy as panim, a brazen-faced nation. In other words, a nation that has no shame, has no remorse, no mercy. Asher lo yisap panim lizaken v'na'ar lo yachon, who will not have any mercy towards the elderly, and will not show any kindness towards the youths. In other words, they're just, sounds like basically like the Nazis, kind of, right? Okay. What? Achal pri behemtecha o pri admatecha עד איש עמדך אשר לא ישאיר לך דגן תירוש ויזהר שחר אלפיך ועשתרות צונך עד עבידו אותך. And you'll eat the pri behemtecha, basically I it literally means the fruit of your animals, but I think it's let me just see here. Yeah, I guess it's saying you're going to eat up all your animals and all of the fruits of your land until ad hishamdach until you are destroyed. Asher lo yashir lecha, and because it will not be left for you any dagan tirosh vayitzhar, no grains, no wine, and no oil. Shchal alafecha, the output of your oxes, in other words, the offspring of your oxes, v'ashterot zonecha, and the offspring of your flocks, ad avido otach, until they destroy you. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Goy az panim, the other nation that comes. So okay, I'm sorry, I translated that incorrectly. Verse 49 says that God is going to send a goy merachok. He's going to send a nation from far away. They're not going to have any mercy. They're not going to have any mercy on the elderly, and they're not going to have any kindness towards the youth. In other words, they're just going to kill everybody, no matter how young or old they are, babies, old people, etc. If not kill, then at least show no mercy towards them. And this foreign nation, they're going to eat. They're going to eat all of your livestock, and all of your produce that comes out of the land. Ad hishamdach. Asher lo yashir, until you are destroyed. Asher lo yashir, because they will not leave it for you any grains or wine or oil. Shchar alafecha u'ashterot zonecha, and they will not leave for you any offspring of. Hold on a second, Shoshi boy, Johan. Hold on, be right back. Come here, Johan. You can't go out that door. Hold on, you gotta get the cat. Come here, baby. Come. Okay, so the offspring of your cattle, of your cows, basically, and the offspring of your flock, ad avidotach, until it destroys you, until that foreign nation destroys you. And it should be pointed out that all of these phrases here, dagan tirosh yitzhar chal alafecha v'ashterot zonecha, these are poetic ways of saying, respectively, dagan is grain, wine, oil, cattle, and flocks. These are all rather poetic ways of saying them. And in the past, we've seen these words used pretty much only in positive ways. In other words, in poetic, it's kind of these words that are very poetic, and they were used to show how great the land of Israel was and how kind God will be to you. Yahweh will be to you when you enter the land of Israel. He's going to give you dagan tirosh yitzhar. He's going to give you grain and wine and oil, and he's going to increase the shchar alafecha v'ashterot zonecha, and he's going to increase the offspring of your flocks, of your cattle and your flocks. These were all used as poetic ways of stating these various things, or these various grains, or these various plants and animals. And here they're being deliberately used poetically to kind of turn that back on us. In other words, I'm trying to think of a good example in English. Maybe, I don't know, I can't think of anything offhand, but these deliberately poetic words are being used here in the curse almost to mock Israel, or almost to throw it right back in Israel's face, that these words were used to poetically describe the bounty and the beauty of the land of Israel. And here they're being thrown back in Israel's face, these poetic positive words, to show that for disobeying the commandments that Yahweh gave to Israel, then you're going to lose all that, or that now it's almost like mocking, or it's almost like karmically throwing these words back in Israel's face. These words were supposed to be used to show how kind Yahweh was going to be, how great the land of Israel is, and all the beauty of its produce and its livestock, and now it's being thrown back in Israel's face to say, "Ha, this is what you could have had, or this is now what you're getting." Okay, ad havido otach, until they destroy you, until this foreign nation destroys you, literally until he destroys you. Verse 52, and let me just go over here for a second to see if any questions or comments. Any questions, any comments, anybody? For now? Let me get rid of this. Suppose I should have this thing going. Where is it? Oh, not that one. No, we got to go back to banners. We got to go. This is the one that's supposed to be up. Okay, there we go. I guess that's supposed to be up. Okay. That's my producer, Mr. Snurdly. Okay. So. Right. So let's go on. Verse 52. And this is a long chapter indeed, but okay. What Etzar lecha b'chol she'arecha al. Hey, Shoshi boy, show him. No. Ad redet chomotecha hagivot והבצורות אשר אתה פותח בהן בכל ארצך והצר לך בכל שעריך בכל ארצך אשר נתן יהוה אלוהיך לך. So they will lay siege to. They will lay siege, or they will besiege you throughout all of your gates. Ad, and that means all of your walled cities, the gates of your walled cities. Ad redet chomotecha gvoot v'abitzurot, until your tall and fortified walls come tumbling down. Asher ata potech behen, that which you had faith in, which you had relied upon, which you trusted in. B'chol atzecha, throughout all of your land. V'hetzelecha, and they will besiege you in all your gates. B'chol she'arecha, b'chol atzecha, throughout all of your land. Asher natan Yahweh Elohecha lach, which Yahweh your God had given you. So in other words, you, instead of having faith in Yahweh, you decided to have faith in your tall and strong or strongly fortified walls around your cities. You thought that was going to save you, but no. These foreign nations, or this foreign nation, this hypothetical foreign nation, is going to come upon you, is going to besiege you in your cities, and all of your walls throughout all of your land are going to come tumbling down. And then, of course, it has to mention Asher Natan Yahweh Elohecha lach, the land which God, Yahweh your God, had given you or has given you. So, in other words, that's also kind of mocking. That's also kind of throwing it back in Israel's face, because we saw in many places that the Torah reminds us that when you come into the land which God swore to give you, or which God has given you as an inheritance, or which God gave you, that's always pointed out, and this is what you're supposed to do, or this is the blessing you're going to have. And here it's being reminded that now it's being thrown back in Israel's face, that this is going to happen in that land which God had given you. In other words, if you'd only kept my commandments, only this never would have happened. Only good things would have happened. But now the language of the Torah is, in my opinion, deliberately throwing it back in our faces, deliberately throwing it back in Israel's face by saying the land which God gave you. And there's a lot of, I don't know if you'd use the word karma, or a lot of, just shoving it back. It's, shoving Israel's nose right in its own poop, to, by using these words very cleverly, these words that were all used to show how great the land is going to be, how prolific it's going to be, how beautiful it is. These very same words, which are reserved for the poetic descriptions of the beauty and the bounty of the land of Israel, are now being thrown right back in Israel's face to say that if you disobey my covenant, then just the opposite is going to happen to you. But the words are being very, very carefully and specifically chosen by the Torah. Make no doubt about it. Wachata pri bitnecha b'sar banecha u'bnotecha asher natan lecha Yahweh Elohecha b'matzor u'b'matzok asher yatzik lecha oivecha. and you shall eat the pri bitnecha, literally the fruit of your womb. Basar banecha benotecha, the flesh of your sons and your daughters. In other words, you're going to become so desperate that you're going to become cannibalistic. And not only are you going to become cannibalistic, you'll eat your own children. That's how desperate, that's how crazy and insane you're going to become from all that happens to you, from all that comes upon you, from the famine and the thirst and the siege by your enemies, and all of the other stuff that we saw up above, the various boils and plagues and diseases. This is all going to make you so desperate and so insane that you're going to end up eating your own sons and daughters. So your sons and daughters, which Yahweh your God gave to you, b'matzor u'b'matzok, while you're under siege and while you are in trouble or in big trouble. Here the translation is in dire straits. Asher yatzik lecha oivecha, which the trouble that your enemies shall lay upon you. Ha'ish harach bicha wa'anor me'od tira qaino be'achiu ube'eshet chako u'yeter banao asher yotir. So the most gentle man among you, the most anog is shushi boy, is also like gentle, refined, dainty. I don't know if dainty applies to a man, but the most refined, the most gentle and refined man among you, tera ena, suddenly his eyes, literally his eyes will become evil, his eyes will become bad. But what it really means to say is he'll suddenly, turn on you. Ba'achib is upon his own brothers or his own kin, and upon the wife, literally the wife of his bosom. In other words, his bosom wife. And on all of his children, asher yotir, and that are left. In other words, any of his children that had not already died in the various plagues and attacks, now his eyes are going to turn on them. In other words, he's going to eat them. He's going to eat his own wife. He's going to eat his own brother, and he's going to eat his own children. And that's explicit right here in verse 56. Mitet lechad mehem mibasar banao asher yochal mivli ishir lo kol b'matzor u'b'matzok asher yatzik lecha oivecha b'chol sha'arecha. Okay, so it's almost even worse. One second here, let me just get the context. Isharach b'cha oneg ma'un tera v'chi u'eshet chiko u'yeter banav asher yotir. So in other words, okay, it's even worse than eating his own brother and sons and wife. He's going to eat his own children, and he won't even give any of the meat of his children that he's eating to his brother or his bosom wife or to the rest of his children who he hasn't eaten. That's what verse 5 is. That's what verse 55 is saying. So ha'ish, okay, so I'll just paraphrase and then we can go back. He won't even give to one of them the flesh of his children. In other words, his own children that he's eating. Asher yochal, that he shall eat. Mivli ishir lo kol. And he won't leave any over for them. B'matzor or b'matzok, when he is besieged, when he's under siege, and when he is in a desperate situation, that your enemies shall place you in, shall place you into this desperate situation throughout all of your cities. So the famine is going to be so bad, or the situation is going to be so bad, that a man will eat his own children, and even the most dainty and gentle man, the most refined man, right, the one who sat in the finest restaurants and wore the finest clothes and had everything good in his life, he's going to eat his own children, and he will not even give any of the flesh of his own children to his own brother, his own wife, or to the rest of his children. He's going to turn on them. And it says, what's the word that's used here? Tera enau. Eno. Literally his eye will become evil. He'll get the evil eye. He's basically gonna just gonna turn on them, is basically what it's saying. So when he's eating the flesh of his own children, he won't even give any of that flesh to the rest of his children, to his bosom wife, or to his own brother. Okay, and now the women also are not going to escape this fate. Ha raka b'cha wa'nuga asher lo nista kaf ragla hatzeg al haaretz mihit aneg umeroch tira ina ba'ish chika ubivna ubivita. Shoshi boy, what are you doing? Now we have two cats in it. Hey. So now, harakabecha wa anuga, the most gentle and spoiled, maybe anuga, a better way to translate it would be spoiled, dainty or spoiled. Let's go with spoiled. The most dainty and spoiled woman among you, whose feet had never even set foot on the ground. In other words, she wouldn't even walk on the dirty ground. That's how refined and well off she was. She would only walk, I don't know, maybe on paved streets, or only be carried around in chariots or something like that, right? Her foot never touched the ground is basically what it's saying. Okay, so the most refined and spoiled of the women among you, whose foot has never in her entire life touched the ground. That's how refined and spoiled she had been. Mihit aneg u meroch, from daintiness, from being so spoiled and from being so gentle. Basically, we're talking about a Jap. Right? That's what we're talking about here. Tera ene ba'ish, and her eye is going to turn on, or literally her eye will become evil upon her husband, her bosom husband, upon her sons, and upon her daughters. So basically, she's going to turn on her own husband, her sons, and her daughters. In other words, the same thing. She will eat her own flesh, and she will not even give portions of that flesh. She'll eat her own children, and she won't even give. And she's going to turn on her husband, her sons, and her daughters, and she won't even give portions of the flesh of her own children to them to eat, to prevent them from starving to death. That's how bad the situation is going to be. Okay, verse 57. U b'shilyata hayotzet miben raglecha u b'vanecha asher teled ki tochlem b'choser kol b'sater b'matzor u'b'matzok asher yatzik lecha oivecha b'sha'arecha. Right. So literally it means the afterbirth that comes out from between her legs. And let me just get this. So I guess what it's saying here is that even a newborn baby, her newborn baby, she will not even have any kindness towards, and feed that newborn baby with the flesh of her other children. Ubibaneha, and Asher Teled, and her sons and her children that she gives birth to. Kitochlem. She will eat them. Okay, I'm sorry. Wait a second. Okay. Let me just get both verses together. ומרוך תרא עינה באיש חיקה ובנה ובביתה ובשרייתה היוצאת מבין רגליך ובניך אשר תלד. Okay. So it's speaking about if I'm getting this right, she's going to eat her husband, her children, her sons and her daughters, and she's going to eat her own afterbirth and her fetus or her newborn that comes out from between her legs, kitochlem, and she will eat them. B'choser kol, because she has nothing left. Basater, and she'll do it in secret, in b'matzor, and while she's under siege or being besieged, and in agony or in in dire straits. Asher yatzik lecha oivecha b'sharecha, that your enemies will put you in these dire straits in your cities. So it's really graphic, right? The Torah is painting a really, really graphic picture about how this curse is going to play itself out. It's not just like, oh, yeah, you're gonna have rough times. I mean, this is like some really graphic stuff. It's almost like when we were growing up in Hebrew school, and right around Holocaust Remembrance Day, which I think occurs in the middle of April, more or less, they would always show us these very explicit Nazi movies. We were like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. We were little children, and the rabbis made it a point to show us these movies. I remember some of the kids would have to walk out of the room. Sometimes I remember some of the kids would actually vomit. They were so, these were just explicit Nazi movies. You've seen them all. You know what I'm talking about. And the rabbis would say to us, yes, we have to show these movies to you, even though you're children. We have to show it to you so that you never forget what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust. Right? That was their reasoning. And I totally get their reasoning, but they were graphic, and they were graphic with a specific intent. The intent was to make sure that point got drilled into us, that never again, that we should never allow this to happen again. Well, this description here that we're seeing, this curse that we're seeing, okay, there were no movies back then, but it's extremely, extremely graphic. It's not just like, oh, bad things are going to happen to you. It's described in excruciating graphic detail so that it really gets the point in. It didn't work in the end because Israel sinned anyway, and all these things came upon Israel at one time or another. But it's designed to really make it sink into Israel's head when they're reading this, that if you disobey God, then some really, really disgusting, horrible, desperate things, you're going to find yourself in a really, really desperate situation. Of course, Israel forgot all about it. They didn't believe God was going to, Yahweh was going to really fulfill it, was going to really, go through with his word. And, but eventually, as we know, he did in many of these ways. Okay. Verse 58. אם לא תשמור לעשות את כל דברי התורה הזאת הכתובים בספר הזה ליראה את השם הנכבד והנורא הזה את יהוה אלוהיך. So if you do not be careful to keep all of the words of this Torah, of these instructions הכתובים בספר הזה that are written in this book, which Torah, which instructions are we talking about? Which book are we talking about? That is a big question mark, and a lot of different people have their different opinions, and that's really a whole different story. Are we talking about the entire Torah? Are we talking about the book of Deuteronomy? Are we talking about just this curse? These are all possibilities. Le'yira et Hashem hanichbad, to fear the honored or the holy. Nichbad is honored, the honorable name, the honorable and terrible name, or terrible, not in like horrible, terrible as in I don't. It's really hard to express it in English. Hanora would be the I don't know. I'll just go with terrible because that's the way it's usually translated. Let's see that translated here. Hanora. Awesome. Nah, it doesn't really bring out the essence of the word. Hanora means terrible, like this name that you should fear. This kind God, but he's so powerful that if you're stupid enough not to listen to him, then he can bring terrible, terrible things upon you. That's basically the idea that's being expressed. So they often translate this word nora as terrible. Sometimes they say, well, terrible in the modern day means, bad or horrible. So then they change it to awesome. That's what they did here. I don't like the translation. It's hard to find the exact correct word in English to translate it to. But at any rate, we'll just go with this honorable and terrible name. And what name is that? It's the name Yahweh. Yahweh Elohecha, the name of your God, which is Yahweh. But it's speaking specifically about the name Yahweh. So this is the honorable and terror-inspiring or fear-inspiring, or to be feared, maybe to be feared, to be terrified, the honored and to be feared or to be terrified name Yahweh of your God, Yahweh. Okay, oops. Verse 59. Wahifla Yahweh et makotecha ve'et makot zeracha makot gidolot ve'ne'amanot وَخَلَائِم الرَّائِم وَالْيَمَانِيم. And Yahweh will make wondrous, hifla, from the underlying root, Pe Lamed Aleph Pele, will make them wondrous. He will make them a sign or a wonder. What will he make a sign or a wonder? He will make them wondrous. Your et makotcha, your blows or your punishments, what makot zaracha, and the punishments upon your seed, the punishments upon your children. Makot gedolot v'ne'emanot, great and faithful punishments, or makot is like a strike. V'chalaim ra'im v'ne'emanim, and bad and faithful sicknesses, diseases. What does it mean, faithful punishments and faithful diseases? In other words, what it seems to be saying, at least the way I understand it, is that it means either one of two things: either that Yahweh will be faithful to eventually carry them out. In other words, if you think that you're going to disobey the covenant and that Yahweh will not eventually carry out these punishments, then you are mistaken. They will be faithfully carried out when the time comes. Of course, we know that Yahweh is Erech HaPayim. He's long-suffering. He waits a long time for people to repent before placing punishment upon them. But eventually, he will faithfully carry them out. Or maybe another meaning of that could be makot gedolot v'ne'emanot v'chalaim ra'im v'ne'emanim, that these punishments and diseases are faithful in the sense of they're very carefully chosen to kind of mirror either what happened to Israel's enemies, such as Egypt, or to mirror the opposite of the blessings that Yahweh had promised in many other places in the Torah to give Israel. So maybe carefully chosen would be a good translation there. Let's go with that. So let's read that again with that kind of understanding. Hifla Yahweh et makotcha. Yahweh will make your punishments, the blows against you, wondrous. Wa'et makot zarecha, the blows against you and against your descendants, wondrous. Makot gedolot v'ne'emanot, carefully chosen and horrible or intense punishments or intense blows. V'chalaim ra'im v'ne'emanim, and very bad and carefully chosen or precisely chosen diseases. Maybe that's the way to translate it, and maybe that's even a better understanding of what it means by ne'manim, ne'manot, and ne'manim, faithful, right? I think really that's the understanding that I prefer. Okay, verse 60. Wahishiv becha et kol madwe Misraim asher yagorta mifnehem v'davku bach, and Yahweh will bring back on you, and I think this solidifies, or this supports that second meaning, that these are not just random punishments. These are carefully chosen punishments to basically shove everything right back in your face. All of the punishments that Yahweh had brought upon your enemies, now he's going to shove them right back in your face. And all of the promises that he gave you, all these wonderful promises that he gave you of a beautiful land and a beautiful life in that land, he's now going to shove that right back in your face by giving you just the opposite. You could have had plenty of food and plenty of offspring, and instead now you're gonna sit in hunger and you're gonna eat your own offspring, right? So these are carefully chosen punishments, which are designed to shove everything right back in your face. And if anyone knows how to shove something back in someone's face, it's God. When he wants to get you back, he doesn't just get you back. He thinks it out really carefully. I know I've had that happen in my life, and I'm sure many of us have experienced it either in our own lives. You know, we're not all perfect. We learn, we make our mistakes, and we get punished, or have seen it happen maybe to our own enemies, maybe those who have gone against us, or to people around us. When God wants to get you back, he knows exactly how to get you back. He doesn't just, choose a random punishment. He chooses the punishment that shoves right back in your face the thing that that you did in the first place, that he's punishing you for. Right? I'm sure you've all seen that. V'yeshiv b'cha et kol madwe Mitzrayim, and he will bring back upon you, or return upon you, all of the diseases of Egypt, that you were taken aback by them, that you jumped back from them. How do they translate it here? Afraid of them, with kubach, and they will cling to you, they will stick upon you. So all of these horrible diseases that you saw happen to the Egyptians, now they're going to be brought back upon you, and they're going to stick to you. They're going to come upon you. They're going to cling to you. Again, kind of supporting and solidifying this idea that when it speaks about these faithful punishments or these faithful blows and these faithful diseases, that it means, carefully chosen with a very specific purpose or very specific karmic response to the entire way to all of what Yahweh did for Israel and all of the way that Israel betrayed him. Verse 61. Gam kol holi v'chol makah asher lo chatuv b'sefer haTorah hazot ya'alem Yahweh alecha ad yish'am dach. So, also all of the diseases and punishments and blows which are not even written in this Torah, and again, b'sefer haTorah hazot, we'll talk about that in a second. Ya'alem Yahweh alecha, Yahweh will bring upon you ad yish'am dach, until you are destroyed. So what does it say? All of the diseases and punishments and blows that are not written in this book of instructions, in the Sefer Torah, this book of the Torah. Okay, so this might answer our question about when it speaks about, above. Remember, we were asking imlo tishmor lasot et kol divrei haTorah hazot haktuvim b'sefer hazeh. If you'll not be careful to do all of the words of this Torah, these instructions that are written in this book, and then to fear the honored and terrible name of Yahweh, your God. So we ask the question, what does it mean, the words of this Torah that are written in this book? Does it mean the entire Torah? Does it mean the book of Deuteronomy? Well, I think so all of the diseases and all of the punishments that are not written in this book of the Torah gives us a hint as to what that phrase in this context means, and it would seem to mean that it's speaking about this speech or this section dealing with the curses and the punishments, because we know if it's speaking about the entire Torah, then most of the Torah doesn't really focus on this kind of stuff. It doesn't focus on the diseases and punishments that will come upon Israel if the covenant is disobeyed. It focuses on 1,000,001 different things, but not that. So it would seem that because it's saying that all of the diseases and all of the blows, all of the punishments that are not written in this Sefer Torah will come upon you anyway until you're destroyed, then when it says that this Sefer Torah, it's speaking about this section, basically this section, this speech by Moses having to do with the blessings and the curses. Okay, verse 62. ונשארתם במתי מעט תחת אשר הייתם ככוכבי השמיים לרוב, כי לא שמעת קול יהוה אלוהיך. And you will remain במתי מעט, you will remain a tiny number, tachat, in return for the fact that, or tachat asher, no, in place of being like the stars in the sky in multitude. In other words, as multitudinous as the stars in the sky. So in other words, instead of, remember, Yahweh had promised that we would be as multitudinous, as great in number as the stars in the sky. Right? Look up Abraham to the heavens, Genesis 15, and count the stars if you can. So shall be your seed. So shall be your descendants. And now, instead of being as numerous as the stars in the sky, you'll be reduced to tiny small numbers. Because you do not listen to the voice of Yahweh your God. In other words, you did not follow what he told you to do. Verse 63. Let me just go see if there are any comments or questions. So any comments or questions at this point? I'm rubber, your glue, whatever hits me bounces off you and hits and sticks to you. Isn't it supposed to be? I'm rubber, your glue, whatever hits me. Whatever you say, I remember, okay, we had a slightly different phrase when we were growing up. It was, I'm rubber, your glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. But, okay, same idea. Sorry, I'm late. Shabbat shalom. Do you have a late note from the principal? Okay, next time, if you're going to be late, you have to come. You have to bring a late note from the principal. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, so any comments? Any questions? All right, then let's continue. כאשר שש יחווה עליכם להיטיב אתכם ולהרבות אתכם, כן יסיס יחווה עליכם להעביד אתכם ולהשמיד אתכם. Let's translate up to there. That's the etnach, that's the semicolon. So just as Yahweh rejoiced over you to do good for you and to increase your numbers to great amounts, to greatly increase your numbers, Ken, now, Yasis Yahweh Alechem, now Yahweh will rejoice over you, to destroy you, or to consume you, or to make you disappear, and to destroy you. וניסחתם על האדמה, אשר אתה בא שמה לרשתה. And you shall, let's get a translation for that one. That's not very common in that context anyway. One second. Right. Okay. So it occurs 4 times, this root in that context. And so it's kind of like plucked up or destroyed. So now Yahweh will rejoice over you to annihilate you, or to destroy you and annihilate you, and pluck you up from this land which you are coming in to inherit. Verse 64. What? Yahweh bechol ha'amim miktzeh haaretz wa'ad ktzeh haaretz. And Yahweh will disperse you throughout all of the peoples, throughout all the nations, from miktzeh haaretz wa'ad ktzeh haaretz, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Ve'avad sham Elohim acherim, and there you shall worship foreign gods, asher lo yadata, that you had never known before, ata ve'avotecha, that you and your fathers had never known, eitz va'even, gods of wood and stone. And I already gave my take on, it's not really a commentary, my kind of what a friend had told me, which I thought was kind of a cute take on it, that Eitz represents the Christian world and Avin represents the Muslim world, because the Christians, they worship a cross and a statue made usually out of wood, and the Muslims have the rock in the Kaaba in Mecca. But I don't think that's literally what the Torah is talking about. I just thought that was kind of a cute take on it. What it's literally talking about is that you're going to run into foreign gods. And these foreign gods were generally idols, and they were often made out of either wood, or they were made out of chiseled wood, or they were made out of chiseled stone, or they were made out of masecha. They were made out of they were either pesel or masecha. Pesel is something that's chiseled or carved. That would be the wood and stone, or then a masecha would be kind of a cast metal. In other words, metal that was cast into a mold and then popped out as an idol. So here it's speaking about these different types of gods that would be carved out of either wood or stone, and that's basically a pesel, right, which was a common type of idol. So it's just speaking about in general these foreign idols that you're going to end up worshiping. Verse 65. ובגויים ההם לא תרגיע ולא יהיה מנוח לכף רגליך. And among these people, among these nations, lo targia, you will not be able to relax even for a second. ולא יהיה מנוח לכף רגליך, and there will not be any rest for the soles of your feet. In other words, you're constantly going to be in a state of unease, constantly be moving around, right? The wandering Jew. It lasts to this day. ונתן יחווה לך שם lev et ragaz וכיליון עיניים with da'avon nafesh. And okay, ונתן Yahweh, and God and Yahweh will give to you there when you're among these foreign nations where you're worshiping the gods of wood and stone, where you are not relaxed for a second and your feet don't have rest for a second. You're always in a state of unease. ונתן יחווה לך שם, and there Yahweh will give to you lev ragaz, an unsettled heart, וכיליון עיניים, and the failing of eyes, the dimming of eyes, with da'avon nafesh, and the how would you say da'avon in English? Da'avon would be like sickness or unwellness of in your soul is not really a correct translation, but basically in your being. Okay. Close enough. Let's go on to 66. Wahayu hayecha tiluim lecha mineged upachadeta laila wayomam v'lo ta'amin b'chayecha. And it literally says your life will be hanging right before you. Mineged means like in front of you. So I guess the idea that's being expressed here is your life will be constantly hanging in the balance. You'll never know whether you're going to live or die. And you'll be in fear night and day. And you will not have any faith in your life. In other words, you're going to live in a precarious situation, in an insecure situation, in a situation where you don't have any confidence that your life is going to be safe and secure. You could be killed at any moment or destroyed at any moment. You're not going to have any sense of permanence, safety, or security. Verse 67, Babokir tomar mi iten erev, uba-erev tomar mi iten boker. At night, you'll say, I'll transliterate, I'll just give a colloquial translation, then I can give a more direct one. In the night, you'll say, in the morning, you'll say, if only it were night. And at night, you'll say, if only it were the morning. But literally, it says, Babokir tomar mi iten erev. In the morning, you shall say, who will make it evening? Erev tomar, and in the evening, you will say, mi iten boker. Who will make it? Who around here could do me a favor and make it the morning? In other words, if it's morning, wherever you are in time, wherever you are in space, you're going to wish you were somewhere else. You're not going to feel relaxed. You're not going to be able to settle into the moment. You're always gonna wish it were sometime and you were somewhere else. Mipachad levavcha, from the fear of your heart, asher tifchad, from the fear in your heart, which you will fear, and from the sights that your eyes see, or from the visions of your eyes that you will see, visions that come into your eyes that you will see. Verse 68. "Vayishivcha Yahweh Mitzrayim ba'oniot," and Yahweh will return you to Egypt in ships. "B'derech asher amarti lecha lo tosif od lir'ota," on a path or on a course that I said to you that you shall never ever see again. So somehow you're going to go to Egypt. We know that one of the places that the Israelites left when Judea was destroyed was they went down to Egypt, and we know actually that large Jewish and important Jewish communities rose up in Egypt, such as in Alexandria. Had a huge Jewish community. So this actually happened. "Vayishivcha Yahweh Mitzrayim ba'oniot b'derech." Okay, we read that already. "V'hit makartem sham lo'evecha," and you'll be sold there to your enemies. You'll be sold as slaves to your enemies. What's that hearkening back to? How about Joseph? Joseph was brought down to Egypt and sold into slavery, became a slave in the house of Potiphar. "Lo'evecha la'avadim," as male servants, u'lishfachot, and female servants or concubines, wa'ein koneh, and no one will even want to buy you. In other words, there are going to be so many of you that your prices are going to be so cheap on the market that no one will even put out a penny to buy you, even as slaves, or you'll be so despised that no one would even think of buying you as a slave. And that is the end of Deuteronomy 28, very uplifting, cheery chapter in the Tanakh. But in all seriousness, that is right. We saw the blessings and we saw the curse. And so it's important to know that, and before that, we spoke also about curses and blessings. We spoke about the curse on Mount Ebal that will happen, and Mount Gerizim is also mentioned where the blessings will take place. Okay, so all of this section has to do with from Deuteronomy 27 through 28 has to do with blessings and curses, the blessings that will happen to us if we follow the word of Yahweh, and the curses that will happen to us if we don't follow the word of Yahweh. And it makes sense, because if we are in a covenant with Yahweh, if we're in a contract, almost like a marriage contract with Yahweh, then there are consequences, right? Breach of contract has its consequences. That's what contracts are all about. If you make a contract, I don't know, a business contract with somebody, and the contract says, whatever, we're going to each put in 50% into the business and take 50% of the profits. But if you don't put in 50% of the business, then, or if you do such and such, or if, I don't know, you violate the stipulations of the contract, then these are the consequences, right? You cannot have a contract that has, and why is the contract written? Let's say that business contract, why is it written? Because it's supposed to be beneficial to both parties. That's why two parties enter into a contract most of the time. If both sides, are doing it of their own free will, then why would they do it? They do it because they feel the contract is beneficial. So that's the blessings. If we come together in this contract and we both fulfill our roles within the contract, then it's going to be better for the both of us. That's why we're entering into this contract, right? Synergy. 2 is better than is more than 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. But on the other hand, the opposite of that is if there's any kind of breach of contract, then it can't just be, there are no consequences whatsoever. Let's just forget about it. It's just not working out. That may be one of the consequences, but there have to be some punishments. There have to be some consequences for breach of contracts. That's just the way it is. And it's the same thing here. We are in a contract. We are in a covenant. We're in a brit, a solemn covenant with Yahweh. Israel is. And if we follow the ways of the contract, then good things happen. And if we break the stipulations of a contract, then there have to be consequences. There have to be punishments. And because the blessings are so great, so the punishments, so the curses are so great as well. And really, it makes sense. In fact, if we look at it the right way, we'll understand that the severity and the graphicness of the blessings actually shows just how much Yahweh loves us, loves Israel, and wants to do good for us. Because Yahweh would not punish us so harshly for disobeying his covenant if it weren't for the fact that what he really wanted to do was just bless us greatly and give us incredible gifts, both physical and spiritual. In other words, closeness with him by being in the covenant. It just shows how great, the greater the downside, the greater the upside, and vice versa. The greater the upside, the greater the downside. The fact that the downside is so intense and graphic and so strong and so extreme just shows us how much Yahweh wants to do good for us. So the lesson to be learned here is don't disobey the covenant, keep the covenant, cling to Yahweh, cling to his ways, cling to his word, and just wait for the goodness of heaven, the Tala Shamayim, the dew from the heaven to just drip down upon your heads, upon my head, upon all of our heads, Be'ezrat Yahweh. And so we should never have to experience the negative parts of the covenant. We should never have to experience the curses, and we should only have to experience the good parts, the blessings. And that is my blessing to everybody here, that should happen to each of us individually, and that should happen to us as a nation of Israel, and also all of the other people who are not in covenant as part of the nation of Israel, who are still loyal to Yahweh and to his ways, and also they are niluim, they are basically clinging to Yahweh, as I would say, as someone said, allies or supporters from the outside, and also great blessings should and will happen to them. So let's stick to Yahweh. He really doesn't ask that much from us, just to basically be good, decent people. A couple of simple laws like, don't work your slaves on the Shabbat, don't work your animals on the Shabbat. Try to be nice people is basically what the Torah is all about. So let's do that. Let's keep his covenants. Let's not worship foreign gods. Let's not do anything to really tick them off. And let's just Be'ezrat Yahweh, reap all of the blessings and the benefits of the Torah and never have to see any of the curses. But let's remember that they're there, because that actually helps us. It keeps us in line and it keeps us in place. Just like a father, hopes that he's never going to have to punish or hit his children or yell at his children or whatever it is that various fathers do. But the fact that we as children know that could happen is to our benefit, because it keeps us in line, and we're not being kept in line for our parents' sake. Hopefully, we're being kept in line for our own sake if we have good, loving parents. And it's the same thing here. The curses are for our benefit. They're to keep us in line for our own good, for our own benefit, so that Yahweh can do what he really wants to do for us, and that's to just rain down upon us these amazing blessings, this amazing closeness to him, this amazing physical reward of great abundance in every single way, in our produce, in our cattle. Of course, maybe in the modern age that would mean big fat salaries or profits from business, and also and lots of offspring and spiritual closeness to Yahweh, and all of these wonderful good things that make our lives easier to live and better, and that Yahweh really wants to give us if only we will follow in his ways. So, oh boy. So that completes. Do you still have Karaite Corner? Karaite Corner was never mine, Tsurio. That was some other Karaites. I think it's still online. Mine is Karaite Insights. So that completes chapter 28, which actually is still before the beginning of our Parsha. We haven't even gotten to our Parsha yet, but that's okay. We do that from time to time. We're going to go now to 29. Our Parsha starts, at least in this text, 29:10, Nitzavim. But we'll go through the beginning of 29, and then we'll get down to verse 10. But I'd like to take a break for about 5 or 10 minutes just to drink some water, to stretch. And so let's take about a 5 to 10 minute break. I'll put some nice music on, and then we will reconvene in about 5 or 10 minutes. Should we do another speed test? See how Starlink is doing. So for those of you who missed it, in the past, we've had a lot of problems with internet connectivity. Sometimes the sound will just stop, or there'll be gaps, and that's because we live here in a very small village in the middle of nowhere, and the internet service here is very old. It's archaic. It's really from it's the type of technology from the early 2000s. It's the ADSL technology that runs through the regular home telephone lines. And but a friend of mine, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, gave me the most brilliant suggestion, and that was to buy Starlink. Starlink, is that Elon Musk company that uses low Earth satellites to provide internet connection to places that usually don't have good internet connection. And our Starlink equipment arrived this week, set it up, and man, it works like a charm. It's the most incredible stuff. So yeah, so we went from, let's see if I can do the speed test again. So let's do a speed test. Boom, here we go. There it is. You can see it says SpaceX Starlink. Come on, baby, you can do it. Why is there stupid advertisement here? Let me see if I can get rid of these stupid advertisements. Let's do this again. 1 second. Okay. Come on. Let's see what we got. So yeah, sometimes there it goes over 200. Oh wow, this is one of the fastest I've ever had so far with the Starlink. Okay, so what do we got? 221.91 megabits per second, and the upload speed usually is somewhere between 10 and 20 megabits per second. So we're getting 15. Yeah, that's about usually what it is. $13.54. So in the old system, I was usually getting about, if I were lucky, maybe about 10 megabits per second as a download speed. And sometimes even less, sometimes 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, depending on if a lot of people were on the internet, and there were always these intermittent periods where the internet was cutting out, and that's why we'd get all these gaps. It was a giant mess, and quite frankly, it was affecting my day job as well, because I have to work remotely, and it was really causing itself to be a pain in the neck, the slow internet. So that's what we usually got, around 10 megabits per second. Now it's 221.91 megabits per second, and the upload speed usually was about 1 megabit per second, and now it's 13 megabits per second. So this thing is zipping. So I don't think we're gonna have any more problems anymore, any more gaps in Shabbat Shalom, Ruben S. Scurry. And Melech WhatsApp broke my phone. I had the factory reset it. I can't use that app for your information. Okay, I don't know what to tell you, Javier. Then in that case, just join you can join the Facebook groups. We've got the World Alliance of Qara'im Facebook group. It's in the announcements for the Shabbat studies, and we also have the Biblical Calendar Society Facebook groups. You can join those. But at any rate, so I don't think there have been any connectivity problems so far this week. That story is hopefully over, dead and buried. So from now on, we're gonna have some super fast, really zippy internet connection, and I'm happy as a clam. Okay, let me put on a little bit of music. We'll reconvene in about 10 minutes or so, and we will take it from there. Let's see, what should we do? How about we can go for, let's go for, okay. There we go, history. Okay, we'll go for that. I like that one. Okay, 1 second. Takes me a moment to set this up.
حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب وهالقرار نرجع لوطان ولا نعيش وغرايب كل شيء له نظر كل شيء له نظر يا طالعين القصر الفوق يا نازل مسلموني يا طالعين القصر الفوق يا نازل مسلموني على غزال عيون السود هو السبب في تلف روحي كل شيء له نظر يا حرام يا مشير كل شيء له نظر على لبان يا حمام بتنوح ليك فكرتني بالحبايب يا حمام بتنوح ليك فكرتني بالحبايب أقدر نرجع لوطان ولا نعيش وغرايب كل شيء له نظر يا حمام كل شيء له نظر يا لبان 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 كل شيء له نظر يا حمام كل شيء له نظر
حبيبي بحبك تعالى لي مشى ورجعتني
يا ما سهرنا عاللوز الأخضر وبقيت أجله يا عيني والحلوين والله بيشرب هيلا 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 يلا
يا سلام
حبيبي بحبك تعالى لي
يا سلام
اتمشى وارجع تاني
يا سلام
وانا اسال الله كريم يحمي يا رب حبيبي يا عيني قلبه على والله عليها هيدا 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 يلا
يا سلام
يا حبيبي بحبك تعالى لي
يا سلام
اتمشى وارجع تاني
يا سلام
مين في المحبة يعذر غيري لنضرب يا عيني شاف العذاب أشكال والوان طب هنا 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 يلا
يا سلام
يا حبيبي بحبك تعالى لي
يا سلام
اتمشى وارجع تاني
يا سلام
أول دخول الجنينة عيطي ياسمين للل أول دخول الجنينة عيطي ياسمين للل والسيسبان اختشى والورد ألقى من للل قال العناب افتحوا للعاشق المسكين يا للل رايحين لحدث حبي معاكم راح يدلي يا رايحين لحدث حبي معاكم راح يدلي محملين العنب فوق العنب تفرح دلي من يدي لي حبيبي والفؤاد يرتاح دلي
يا اخويا يا لالي يا عيني يا لالي يا بابا يا لالي
عايروني وقالوا لي يسمر النون يا دلال دول عايروني قالوا لي الأسمر اللوني يا حالي أنا أسمر وكل البيض يحبوني يا روحوا اسألوا علبة العطر تلاقوني يا باعوا الورون في المبيت المهدي شبكوني يا
Okay. All right, let's save that for a little bit later. Okay, welcome back. A little music. Okay, welcome back to this week's Torah study. This is the World Alliance of Qara'im Torah study. I am Hakham Melech ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and we are going to be continuing in Deuteronomy chapter 29. So, whoops, there we go. Okay, so let's see. Let me share the screen. Okay. Okay, so now we're in Deuteronomy chapter 29. We're at the beginning of Deuteronomy chapter 29. We still are not up to our parsha, which is fine. This happens from time to time, or actually kind of a lot. And oh well, that's life. All right, but let's see if we can get down to our parsha. Our parsha starts here in verse 10. Let's try to read through this quickly. So we're in Deuteronomy 29, verse 1. And let me just make sure that's visible. Yes, it is. And off we go. אלה דברי הברית אשר ציווה יהוה את משה לכרות את בני ישראל בארץ מואב מלבד הברית אשר כרת איתם בחורב. So these are the words of the covenant which Yahweh commanded Moshe to make, literally to cut with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, aside from the covenant which he cut with them at Horeb. Horeb is Mount Sinai. So it seems like there are two covenant places. Okay, there are two places where a covenant was made. A covenant, what Shoshi boy? I think my cat wants to suckle on my eardrum again. Come here. I mean my earlobe. Come here, you. Come here, you. You are a menace to society. You know that? Come here. So, right. So there are certain places, or there are certain times where the covenant is basically consummated. So Mount Sinai, we know, is one. We had the thunder and the lightning. We had God descending onto the mountain going up in smoke. You know, the whole thing, and you know the thing. And here we're going to have kind of another covenant that's being solidified. So that covenant on Horeb, on Mount Sinai, was a covenant that was made just after the children of Israel came out of Egypt. In fact, about 2.5 months after the children of Israel came out of Egypt, that covenant was solidified. And now we're going to have a new covenant. No, it's not a new covenant. I'm just joking. It's the same covenant. It's just a reiteration. It's almost like when a couple decides to, retake their vows, when they decide to have a second wedding 25 years later, to relive the original vows that they took. This is not a new covenant. It's not a different covenant. It's just a reiteration of the connection between Yahweh and Israel. It's a new covenant ceremony, just as like if a married couple decides on their 25th anniversary to renew their vows or something like that and have a little wedding ceremony. That's a different ceremony from the one they had 25 years ago, or maybe the better example would be 40 years ago, because that's the case here. But it's still consummating the same relationship. It's not that the rules of the relationship have changed, as let's say the Christians mean when they say there's a New Testament or a new covenant. It's the same rules of the relationship. It's just that there's a new ceremony, a new official ceremony, we could think of it as a wedding ceremony between Yahweh and Israel. And this is taking place on the plains of Moab, in the land of Moab. And this is taking place about 2.5 months, as we mentioned over the past couple of weeks, before the Israelites enter the land of Israel. Moshe is going to die within the next couple of months. Joshua is going to take over, and almost immediately, the children of Israel are going to cross the Jordan. Jordan is going to split, just like the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds split when they exited Egypt. The Jordan River, most people don't realize that, but it speaks about it in the book of Joshua. The Jordan River splits, and the children of Israel cross the Jordan River on dry land and enter into the land of Israel. So there are a lot of parallels. So just as there was a Brit, there was a covenant that was made on Mount Sinai about 2.5 months after after Israel left Egypt, after the children of Israel left Egypt. So now there's a covenant being made in the plains of Moab, or in the land of Moab, about 2.5 months before the children of Israel enter into the land of Israel. So we can look for those parallelisms. And one of the interesting things about the Torah is that almost the entire Torah takes place either, well, I'm not talking about Genesis, but Exodus through the end of Deuteronomy. The entire Torah basically takes place just after the Israelites left Egypt, or just before the Israelites enter the land of Israel. We know very little about what happened in the 40 years in between. So, and it's almost like a mirror image. We exit Egypt, which is a land of slavery, a land where we're slaves. We enter into Israel, where we are a free people, or at least slaves to Yahweh rather than slaves to the Egyptians. When we exited Egypt, it was followed by the crossing of the Red Sea, and here we're going to be entering Israel, or in the book of Joshua, we're going to be entering Israel with the crossing of the Jordan River, and the Jordan River splitting and parting under the command of Joshua. And there are other parallels that we could point out, and maybe we'll keep our eyes open for them, but let's go on here. So this is a second covenant, the same covenant, but a second covenant ceremony that's being spoken about here in Deuteronomy 29. ויקרא משה אל כל ישראל ויאמר אליהם. So Moshe called for all of Israel. He gathered together all of Israel, and he said to them, אתם ראיתם כל אשר עשה יהוה לעיניכם בארץ מצרים. You saw all that Yahweh did before your very eyes. You saw with your own eyes all that Yahweh did in the land of Egypt, which לפרעה ולכל עבדיו ולכל ארצו, to Pharaoh and to all of his servants and to all of his land. Now, I always find phrases like this rather strange because, as we said before, the entire generation that came out of the land of Egypt died. That was one of the curses, or that was one of the punishments for the incident with the spies, where the spies came back with a bad report. It was wandering for 40 years in the desert, and the entire generation of anyone over the age of 20 who came out of Egypt would die in the desert. So we did the math before, but the only people who actually saw what actually happened in the land of what happened to Pharaoh in Egypt were those who were more or less under the age of 20 when they exited Egypt, and that was 40 years ago. So that means that they are now under. Let's see, if they were under the age of 20, they were between 0 and 20. So now they're between 40 and 60. So only the people in Israel who were between the ages of 40 and 60 actually saw with their own eyes what happened in Egypt. Anyone over the age of 60 is already dead, according to the curse that was given, or according to the punishment that was given to Israel with the incident of the spies. And anyone under the age of 40 was born after the Israelites already exited Egypt. So the only people who actually saw with their own eyes what happened to Pharaoh in Egypt are the people between the ages of 40 and 60. And quite frankly, the ones who are, let's say, under the age of 5 probably wouldn't remember much of it anyway. So we could say even between the ages of 45 and 60. Those are the only people who would have any firsthand memory of the things that happened in Egypt. So I always find, and we've seen phrases like this a number of times, I always find this phrase a bit strange, okay? So either it's meant figuratively, you heard about it from your parents, or you heard about what happened, or it's meant literally, and this is specifically speaking to that subset of Israelites who actually saw it with their own eyes. But then it does say, "V'yikra Moshe el kol Yisrael." Moshe called all of Israel. V'yomer aleim, he said to them, "You saw all that Yahweh did with your own eyes in the land of Egypt, or before your eyes in the land of Egypt," is literally what it says. Right, Joshi boy? Now you're calm. Such a beautiful cat. Such a great little cat. But okay, we'll leave that as a question mark. Okay, verse 3 and 4. Hamasot hagdolot asher ra'u anecha. So the trials, the great trials that your eyes saw, ha'otot wa'moftim, the signs and the wonders, hagdolim ahem, those great signs and wonders. And that is usually refers to the plagues, the 10 plagues that were placed upon Egypt. And again, most of the people standing there did not see this. Maybe they heard about it from their parents, but they certainly didn't see it with their own eyes. V'lo natan Yahweh lechem lev leda'at, וعينيهم לראות ואוזניים לשמוע עד היום הזה. But Yahweh has not given you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear until this very day. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's find out. והולך אתכם 40 שנה במדבר, and he led you for 40 years in the desert. לא בלוש שלמותיכם מעליכם, ונעלך לא בלטה מעל רגליך. He led you, or he made you wander for 40 years in the desert, and your clothing did not wither away from off of you, and your sandals, your shoes, did not wither away from off of your feet. In other words, somehow, hey, Joshi boy, leave Tufi alone. Leave Tufi alone. Cat problems. So, in other words, somehow miraculously, you've been wandering for 40 years in the desert without a change of clothes, without a change of wardrobe, and nonetheless, your shoes and clothing are still in good shape. Okay. Verse 6. So it's pointing out the supernatural state that Israel was in as they wandered through the desert. And this is also reiterated here in verse 6. Lechem lo achaltem, wayayin u'shechar lo shatitem. You did not eat bread, and you did not drink wine or liquor, strong drinks. Lema'an tid'u ki ani Yahweh Elohechem, in order that you should know that I am Yahweh, your God. So we know that for 40 years, or just about 40 years, the manna fell from the skies. And it actually speaks about in the book of Joshua, in Joshua chapter 5, if I'm not mistaken, it speaks about the manna stopping when the children eating out off of the land of Israel. That's in the book of Joshua. Okay, so lechem lo achaltem yain v'shechar lo shatitem ma'an tid'u ki ani Yahweh Elohechem. Verse 7. תבואו אל המקום הזה, ויצא סיחון מלך חשבון ועוג מלך הבשן לקראתנו למלחמה, Nakem. And when we came to this place, Sichon, the king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, these were the two giant kings, the two descendants of the giants, came out towards us in war. When Nakem, and we slayed them. So this happened recently. This happened as the Israelites were getting ready to enter the land of Israel. וניקח את ארצם, וניתנה לנחלה לראובני, לגדי, ולחצי שבט המנשי. And we took their land, we conquered their land, ונתנה, and it was given as an inheritance to the Reubenites, to the Gadites, and to half the tribe of the Manassites. So when Sichon and Og, these kings of Heshbon and the Bashan, respectively, were conquered or were killed, and their lands were conquered, then those lands which are on the other side of the Jordan, in other words, on the eastern side of the Jordan, were given as an inheritance to the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh. They requested, they said, listen, we like this place, and if you've ever been to the Golan Heights, which is where the Bashan is, you'll understand it is one of the most, it's actually my favorite place in Israel. I mean, I love all of Israel, but the Golan has always had a special place in my heart. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's less settled than the other places, so it's still in a kind of pristine state, although a lot of Israel is. But it's an absolutely gorgeous place. So I totally understand when the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh came to Moshe and they said, hey, we really like it here. We'd like to live here. And then Moshe said, fine, you can live here, but you first have to come into the land of Israel, help us conquer it. And once we've conquered the land of Israel, then you can go back there and live there as your inheritance. Okay? Verse 9. ושמרתם את דברי הברית הזאת ועשיתם אותם למען תשכילו את כל אשר תעשון. So now keep the words of this covenant and do them in order that you shall be successful. Literally, you shall be wise, or you shall have knowledge and how to do all that you do. Verse 10, and this is the beginning of our parasha. So I did say I wanted to try to do it in the Paleo Hebrew. So let's do that. Now that we've reached our parasha, let's at least do it for a little while. And not just as some kind of gimmick, but also to get an idea of what it would have been like for ancient Israelites, for those who even had the chance to read the Torah, to read the Torah. Okay, so then we've got to go to, okay, how are we going to do this? This is Genesis. Return to index. Okay, Deuteronomy. So we are in Deuteronomy 29:10. Deuteronomy 29. And now we've got to go down to 10, 3, 6, 10. Okay, so I do know how to read Paleo, but sometimes if I haven't done it for a while, I get a little bit rusty, so you'll have to bear with me. But this is what we're looking at now. This is the Paleo Hebrew. This is Deuteronomy 29:10. Okay, if we want to have a little fun, we can actually even look at the Latin for it, and that's sometimes interesting. Okay, so atem nitzavim hayom kulchem oh God, now I forgot. I gotta go check. Lifnei, right? Lifnei Yahweh. This is Yahweh in the Paleo. Elohechem. Lifnei Yahweh Elohechem. One more time. Rashechem. This is a Resh, right? Rashechem. Now I forgot. Rashechem Shivtachem. Shivtechem. Zichanechem. Wa Shotrechem. Kol Ish Israel. Okay? So if we go back to the regular, Ten nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Yahweh Elohechem, rashechem shivtachem, ziknechem, shotrechem, kol ish Israel. You are standing today, all of you, before Yahweh, your God, rashechem shivtachem, the heads of your tribes, ziknechem, your elders, wa shotrechem, and your officers, kol ish Israel. Verse 11. Okay. Tapchem, nashechem, וגרך אשר בקרב מחנך מחוטב עצים עד שואב ממך. Okay, so if we go back up here, so these are the different types of people that are standing there. Okay, Ten Nitzavim, you are standing here today, and then it goes through, lists a whole bunch of people: the heads of your tribes, your elders, your officers, and all the people of Israel. And then we have also the babies, the women, and the ger, the sojourner or the convert, asher b'kerev mechanecha, who is in the midst of your camp. From those who chop down the wood choppers, and the water carriers. So here it seems these are, and again, everything in Israel is a hierarchy. Okay, so we have the hierarchy from the highest to the lowest. Okay, we have the heads of the tribes, the elders, and the officers, and all the people of Israel. Okay, we're working down the hierarchy. Now we get to, so all the men of Israel, you could say, Kol Ish Israel, and all the men of Israel. Then if we work down the hierarchy, we get to the babies, the women, or the children, the women, and the Gerim, the converts, who are in the midst of your camp. And it's interesting, I don't want to get into this whole topic right now, but it speaks about including, let's put it that way, including the choppers of wood, and the water carriers, the wood choppers and the water carriers. And I think this is referring to the ger. So we see in a number of places that the gerim were given the more menial jobs. That was just the reality there. And so when it speaks about the including the wood choppers and the water carriers, then I believe that's referring back to the gerim. But we definitely see here a descending of hierarchy. We start from the heads of the tribes, the elders, the officers, all of them. Then we have here the children, the women, and the gerim, the converts, or the ones who went along with Israel, or who had now joined themselves to Israel, or now part of Israel. And that includes even as low as the carriers of the woodcutters and the water carriers. Okay, so we see a definite descending in the hierarchy. Okay. Le avrecha ba brit Yahweh Elohecha wa oh God. ובעלתו. אוקיי, ובעלותו אשר יחווה אלוהיך כרת עמך היום. So again, we'll go back to the regular. Okay, to לעברך בברית יחווה אלוהיך, to make you cross over, לעבורך or לעברך, to make you cross over, or to basically to like cross the threshold of the covenant with Yahweh your God. Aloto is often translated as a covenant, or as a curse. And the reason that the covenant is also called the curse, we actually saw in the previous chapters that it means if you break the covenant, then there's consequences. There's a curse to breaking the covenant. So often a covenant, or the word curse, is used for the covenant to express that idea that you're held into the covenant with both the good and the bad. You're going to get all the blessings, but if you break the covenant, you're going to get the curse. So sometimes it's also called it also called a curse, ba'aloto, because it means that it's held in place with a curse. That if it's broken, it's not just the two sides can walk away. There are consequences for going against for breaking this covenant. Okay, Asher Yahweh Elohech karat imcha hayom, which Yahweh your God is cutting with you, or koret maybe imcha hayom, karat imcha hayom. Okay. So there's a new covenant that's being made with all of the people of Israel. Okay, from the highest in rank down to the lowest in rank. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Lema'an hakim itcha hayom hayom lo. Oh boy. Okay. Lo ila'am. Boy. Lo la'am v'hu. Okay. Hu yi'eh lecha le'elohim כאשר דיבר לך וכאשר what is that again? נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם, this is Abraham in the Paleo, לישחק Yaakov. Okay, I'll pick up the Paleo again. If I haven't done it in a while, I get a little bit rusty, but we'll pick it right back up. In order to establish with you today, or to make you today, or to establish with you today as his people, and he will be for you a God. As he's spoken to you, and as he swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so again, we put it in the context here. Okay, he's crossing you over, he's bringing you over the threshold into a covenant. Okay, today this is a new covenant. Okay, and this covenant is to make you his people. And he's going to be your God. Israel's going to be his people. He's going to be Israel's God, as he had sworn, as he had said previously, and as he had sworn to our forefathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Walo itchem lavad kam. No, I'm sorry. Lo lechem lavad. Second, levad, לבדכם, ולא איתכם לבדכם, אנוכי כרת או כורת את הברית הזאת ואת העלה הזאת. Okay, so let's analyze that. Okay, we'll go back up to the regular. ולא איתכם לבדכם, and not with you alone. Volk, can you take care of Sufi? She's meowing. I don't know what's going on. ולא איתכם לבדכם אנוכי כורת או כרת את הברית הזאת ואת העלה הזאת, and is not with you. Hold on, I gotta get rid of the cat. Second. Sufi, go away. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Go ahead. Joshi boy, what do you want? What is going on? What do you want? Come in. Say hi to the camera. It's soup. Out. 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 Come on. Okay. So, not with you alone am I cutting this covenant and this curse. And again, we explained why a covenant is also called a curse. Because if you break it, there are consequences. If you break it, there's a curse. Okay? Ki et asher now I'm getting a block again. What is this? Ki et asher yeshno po imano amad hayom lifnei Yahweh Eloheinu wa et asher enenu po imano hayom. You know what? Let's go back. We're just gonna. It's getting too complicated. All right. הקים אותך היום לעם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים כאשר דיבר לך, כאשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק, ולא איתכם לבטח. Okay, we're up to here. כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו, כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני יהוה אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום. So I'm not only cutting those, I'm not only making the covenant with the people who are here today, כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו, but with those who are here, yesh, who exist with us, who are here with us today, ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום, who are standing here with us today, לפני יהוה, before Yahweh Eloheinu, our God, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום, and also with those who are not here with us today. Okay? Now we'll try again, Paleo. 16. כי אתם ידעתם את אשר ישבנו בארץ מצרים, ואת אשר עברתי בקרב הגויים אשר עברתם. Okay, we'll go back here just to get the translation. כי אתם ידעתם, because you know, את אשר ישב. Bulky, can you please take all of these cats out of here now and they stay out? Okay, it's really driving me crazy. I'm sorry. 1 second, please. Out. No more cats. Come here, Super. Come here, you. Out. Out. Okay. Sorry about that. Kitem yadatem et asher yashavnu be'eretz Mitzrayim, because you know how we dwelled in the land of Egypt. Wet asher avarnu be'kerev hagoyim asher avartem, and how we passed through or passed in the midst of the peoples where we passed. Okay. So okay, so in other words, you know exactly everything that you've been through. All right, let's go back to the paleo here. Okay. Wa tir'u et shikutsehem wa et. This is going to be, what is this again? No, I'm sorry. Gilalehem. It's wa'even. I forgot. Kesef with zahav asher. Asher. Imahem. Okay, let's go back here. We'll get there. So, watire et shikutsehem, and you saw their disgusting things, their abominations. Wa'et gilulehem, and their gilulehem is kind of like their idols or their statues. Etz wa'even, wood and stone. Kesev was zahav, silver and gold. And remember, we saw before in the curse that you're going to go out to foreign lands and you're going to worship foreign gods of wood and stone. So here you saw their disgusting gods or the disgusting things and their idols. Speaking about the different idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, asher imahem, which they have with them. Okay. Verse 18. Pen yesh bachem. Ish or isha, or mishpacha, there we go, or mishpacha, imachem, right? Okay, ish, or shevet, asher, livavo, livavo, oh boy, pana, livavo pana. Hold on one second. Can you please? 1 second, please. I'm sorry. Livano pana hayom me'im Yahweh Elohim. I'm sorry. Eloheinu ללכת לעבוד את what is it? אלוהי הגויים ההם פן יש בכם, and this is going to be oh boy שורש פרה ראש ולענה. Okay, let's go back here. So okay, תראה את שיקוציהם ואת גילוליהם עץ ואבן כסף וזהב אשר עמהם פן יש בכם איש או אישה או משפחה. Let there be among you a man or a woman or a family or a tribe asher לבבו פונה היום, whose today his heart turns away from Yahweh Eloheinu, from Yahweh our God, ללכת לעבוד את אלוהי הגויים ההם, to go and worship the gods of those nations. Pen yesh bachem, and this is an interesting phrase. Pen yesh bachem, lest there is among you a root, porei rosh ule'ana, a root that gives fruit to, or a root that gives fruit to, rosh ule'ana. So rosh and le'ana is how do you say it again in English? These two species, gall and wormwood. Gall and wormwood. So rosh is usually translated as gall, G-A-L-L. Here they translate as bitterness, but it's usually translated as gall. And le'ana is wormwood. Sorry, 1 second, please. Distractions here. And le'ana is wormwood. So wormwood is, let's just look at wormwood for a second. Actually, have some growing right here in the backyard. So wormwood. So there we go. That's what wormwood looks like, more or less. And it has a very kind of bitter taste to it as well. Okay. All right, let's go on. Verse 19. Wahaya. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to do the paleo. Okay, Wahaya. B. I'm sorry. One more time. Bisham'o. Bisham'o. Et. Divrei. Ha'ala hazot. Oh God, now the cat is going to drive me crazy again. Okay, a lot of distractions here. Right. Wahit barech bi li vavo lemor. Lemor. What is this again? Lemor shalom yihye li ki bi Shrirut libo. Shrirut libo. Libi. Elech le ma'an. Lema'an. That's a samech, right? Lema'an support okay. Harava et tzme'ah. Okay, so let's go back here. So it shall be when he hears the words of this curse that he blesses himself in his heart. Lemor shalomi eli, I shall have peace. Ki b'shrirut libi elech, because I will go in the stubbornness or in the stubbornness of my heart. Lema'an sapot harava et tzme'ah, in order that the saturated should be dragged along with the thirsty. That's a pretty complicated idea or a pretty complicated phrase, but basically what it means is, so we spoke in the previous verse, okay, pen yesh b'chem ish or isha or mishpacha, in case there's anyone, okay, who says, I'm going to go worship the gods of these other nations, okay, and that's called someone who is, or that's called a root of gall and wormwood. So why would he do such a thing if he knows that that he's going to get stung by the curse of the covenant, right? So so it shall be that when he hears the words of this curse, okay, so he's going to hear about the fact that if you break this covenant, you're going to get cursed. But nonetheless, it literally says he blesses himself in his heart. But what it really means is he says to himself, this is not going to happen to me. I'm gonna be blessed. Okay, he says I'm gonna be blessed in his heart. Lemor, and what does he say? Shalom yeli. There'll be peace upon me. Even if I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. Because, and here it says literally because the saturated or those who are full of water will be dragged along with those who are lacking water. And I think the idea here is what this means is that he's saying to himself, even if I go do my own thing, I'm going to just get dragged along with the goodness that happens to everybody else in the nation. Even though I'm the sme'ah, even though I'm the one who's lacking water, I'm going to get dragged along with those who are saturated with water. And this, again, of course, this is kind of, just an analogy. But basically, he's saying to himself that even if I do the wrong thing, even if I break the covenant, I'm still going to have peace. Nothing's going to happen to me because I'm just going to get, I'm going to flow down that same river with all the people who are not breaking the covenant. That's basically the idea here. Okay. So verse 20, let's go back to the paleo. Okay. Lo, Yahweh, slach, lo, ki, az, ki az, oh boy, ki az, where are we? Yashan, ki az yashan. Maybe we'll just go back. Okay, az yashan. Oops. Af Yahweh. Af Yahweh yak. Oh boy. Kinato. Wa kinato. Wakinato. Oh boy, I better just go back to the regular. I guess I have to brush up on my. No, let's work through it. Kinato ba'ishahu. Okay, so ba'ish hahu we 1 second. We rabza bo. ועשה בו כל העלה oh boy. כל העלה הכתובה בספר הזה oh boy. ומחה יחווה את שמה מתחת השמיים. Okay. All right, let's go back here. Verse 20. Lo yove Yahweh sloach lo. So God will not see fit to forgive him. This person who says, "Hey, I'm going to do my own thing, but nothing's going to happen to me because I'm just going to get dragged along with everyone, with all the people who are doing the right thing, and everything will be fine, or I'll never get found out." Ki az yashan af Yahweh. But rather, what's going to happen is yashan af Yahweh. Literally, okay, here's our third cat. Ki az yashan af Yahweh. Literally, smoke will come out of Yahweh's nose, or his nose will go up. Will have smoke coming out of it. Okay. Usually it says chara'af, which means his fire will come out of his nose. But here it says smoke will come out of his nose. In other words, he's going to get super angry. Wakinato. And he will become jealous by Ishahu against this person. In other words, he's going to feel that this person is now betraying him. And he will and upon this person will come down, will descend all of the curse that's written in this book. And Yahweh will erase his name from under the heavens. So in other words, what this is saying is if this one person thinks he's going to get away with it, then Yahweh is going to get really angry at him. He's going to figure him out. Okay, he won't forgive him. He's going to figure him out. He's going to get really angry at him, and his jealousy is going to well up in him, meaning Yahweh's jealousy is going to well up, and then he's going to bring down all of the curses that are written in this sefer, in this book, or in the scroll. So I guess this links it back to the curses that we learned earlier, and Yahweh is going to erase his name from under the heavens. Okay, verse 21. Let's go back to the paleo. I will not give up. I used to be fluent in paleo. Now I guess I'm rusty. Okay. We have wahabdilo Yahweh le oh boy לרעה מכל oh boy מכל שבטי Yisrael, and this is Israel in the paleo right here, Yisrael, ככל עליך, ככל עלות הברית הכתובה בספר בספר התורה הזה. Okay, let's go back here. Verse 21. V'hivdilo Yahweh le'ra'a, and Yahweh will separate him out le'ra'a, for evil. Mikol shiftei Yisrael, from among all the tribes of Israel, kechol alot habrit, according to all the curses of the covenant, aktuva b'sefer haTorah hazot, that are written in this book of the Torah. Okay, so basically all of this is speaking about from, let's see, v'lo itchem levatchem ki etem yadatem. Here, from 18 to 21 is speaking about some person who's going to hear all of the blessings and all of the curses, and he's going to say, listen, I have this temptation to worship idols, and it can be very tempting sometimes. Idol worship is very beautiful. You walk into a Catholic church, and I've been inside many Catholic churches, not to pray or anything like that, but just wandering around various places, let's say in Europe and stuff like that. They're beautiful. Oh my God, they're absolutely spectacular, and it's very tempting. You hear the music and you see the beauty of it, and it's very tempting to wanna, I mean, I've never thought about it, but I can understand why it's very tempting to want to be part of that. It's just very beautiful, right? So there is a certain temptation. There's a certain attraction to idol worship. But if one person decides that they're going to go ahead and worship foreign gods and think they're going to get away with it, then no, Yahweh is going to pick them out. He's going to single them out, and he's going to bring down all the curses of the covenant upon them. Okay. All right. Let me go back here and see if there are any comments or. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. Let's go back. Go back to our paleo. Okay. We amar ha dor ha acharon bit. Oh boy. Benechem. Benechem asher asher yakumu yakumu מאחריכם, מאחריכם is that? Yes. מאחריכם oh boy. הנוכרי אשר יבוא מארץ רחוקה וראו את מכות הארץ ההיא, I'm sorry, ההוא, את הארץ ההוא, ואת, oh boy, that's a tough one, תחלאה, even in the regular Hebrew, תחלאה אשר חלה יהוה בה. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, so Amar Dora Acharon Benechem Asher Yakumu Me'acharechem. So a later generation, your descendants or your children that arise after you, Wanochri Asher Yavo Me'eretz Rechoka, and also the foreigner who shall come from a land that is far away, Ura'u et Makot Haaretz, they'll see the destruction that has come upon this land. Wa'et tachla'eha, tachlu'eha, and this is not a very common word, so they translate here as sicknesses, I guess from choli, and the sicknesses asher chila Yahweh ba, and the sicknesses that Yahweh brought upon it. Verse 23. So in other words, now we're going into a slightly other topic here, okay? So a later generation from even among the Israelites or from among other nations that come to visit the land are going to see all of the destruction that has happened to the land. In other words, after Israel sinned, after they had the curses come upon them, after they'd been thrown out of the land, okay? Okay, so we have Gofrit or Melach. Shariva, what is this? Srifa, kol. Oh boy. Kol, arza, lo. Oh boy. Lo, tizra, wa, lo, walo, תצמח, ולא תצמח, ולא יעלה ba kol esev we oh boy. כמהפכת. עשב, מהפכת Sodom ועמורה. This is Sodom and Gomorrah in the Paleo. Sodom ועמורה, אדמה, oh boy. With צבעים, that's not a common word. Asher, oh boy. Asher הפך יהוה באפו ובחמתו. Okay, let's go back here. So we're talking about the destruction that in the land of Israel that future generations are going to see. Verse 23, gofrit v'melach, and that's gofrit is sulfur or brimstone, v'melach and salt. Sreifa, kol atza, the entire land is burnt. Lo tizara or lo tizarea, it will not be planted. V'lo tatzmiach, and it will not bring out any plants. V'lo ya'aleh ba kol esev, and no grass will come up upon it. Kemapechat Sodom v'amorah, it will be like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah. Adma tzivoim, which also is not a very common word, but that's a place also that was destroyed. Asher afach Yahweh be'apo u'b'chamato, which Yahweh overturned in his anger and in his wrath. We can put it that way. Okay, let's go back. I'm not giving up with the Paleo. Okay, ואמרו כל הגויים על מה עשה יהוה ככה לארץ הזאת. מה חרה האף. מחרה האף, is that right? Yes, מחרי האף הגדול הזה. Okay, verse 24. And they shall say, and all of the nations, and all of the goyim, all the nations shall say, because of what did Yahweh to this land? What did he do all of this to the land for? What is this great anger that he has? I'm a bit paraphrasing, but that's the idea, right? So now we're going on to this second topic, right? The topic we saw before was the person who decides that he's going to go worship foreign gods and everything's going to be okay with him. We saw God is going to single that person out and bring all of the curses down upon him. Here we have another situation that later generations are going to come upon the land of Israel. They're going to see it completely destroyed as if it's Sodom and Gomorrah. And they're going to say, what happened here? What happened that God got so angry that he did all of this stuff? Okay, back to the Paleo. I will not give up on my Paleo. I used to read it like zip, but I haven't done it in a while. Okay, it'll come back very quickly. Amru al asher azvu et what is that? Parit? That must be Brit. I'm sorry. Et Brit, Yahweh, Elohei, Avotam, Asher, Karat, Imam, Asher Karat Imam, Asher Karat Imam, בהוציא אותם מארץ מצרים. Okay, verse 25. And they shall say, על אשר עזבו את ברית יהוה אלוהי אבותם. So when all these people see the land destroyed many generations in the future, they shall say, על אשר עזבו את ברית יהוה אלוהי אבותם, because they abandoned the covenant of Yahweh, the God of their fathers, אשר קראת עמם that he had made with them. In other words, that Yahweh had made with them, with the children of Israel. When he took them, when he took them out of the land of Egypt. Oops. Okay, verse 26. Back to our paleo. Wa yelchu we ya'abdu Elohim acharim wa yishtachavu lahem וישתחוו להם אלוהים אשר לא יודעים ולא חלק להם, yes, שלא ידעו ולא חלק להם. Okay, back to here. So what did the children of Israel do? They went, and they worshipped other gods, and they bowed down and they prostrated themselves before them. Semicolon. Elohim asher lo yadum, gods that they didn't know, v'lo chalak lahem, and that he had not meted out to them, that he had not given to them as a portion. In other words, that Yahweh had not given to them as a portion. It was, they went to foreign gods that they had no business being around. In other words, that's why God destroyed this land so horribly. Okay. Vayichar af Yahweh be'eretz hahu li. One second. Lehavi עליה את כל הקללה הכתובה בספר הזה. Okay, my paleo is coming back to me. Thank you, finally. All right, back here. Slowly but surely. Verse 27. ויחר אף יהוה בארץ ההוא, and Yahweh became infuriated. Remember, before we saw that it said that smoke was coming out of his nose. Now it says we charaf, something like fire is coming out of his nose. Okay, so fire came out of the nose of Yahweh. Ba'aretz hahi, upon that land, lavi aleha et kol haklala, to bring upon it all of the curse haktuva b'sefer hazot, that is written in this book. Verse 28. שם יחווה מעל אדמתם, oh boy, what is that one again? באף, oh boy, באף ובחמה, ובקוצר, בקצף, ובקצף גדול, וישל, וישלכם אל ארץ אחרת, כי כיום הזה. Okay, let's go back here. And Yat Shem, so this is again, the future generations are going to see the destroyed land of Israel, and they're going to say Yat Shem Yahweh me'al admatam, and Yahweh threw them out, uprooted them from their land, ba'afu b'chema, in fury, in anger and in fury, ubeketzef gadol, and in great, these are all different forms of anger, literally foaming at the mouth. So we saw smoke coming out of the mouth. We saw fire coming out of the mouth. Here we have ketzef gadol. It's like foaming at the mouth. And with foaming at the mouth, great foaming at the mouth, and he sent them away to a foreign land, to another land, as it is today. What does that mean? As it is today. This is speaking about what future generations will see, right? This is all looking backwards. This is all a future generation that comes and sees the destroyed land of Israel and then says all of these things. So this future generation is going to say that all of these things happened because Yahweh was extremely angry at them and he sent them away. And this is what we have today, that the land of Israel is destroyed, right? So this is basically speaking about the perspective, or speaking about what a future generation seeing the destroyed land of Israel. And why will the land of Israel have been destroyed by then? Because of all the sins that the Israelites did. They'll be destroyed, and the Israelites will be thrown out of the land of Israel. And this future generation will come along, see all this destruction, and will say that all of this happens, or all of this happened because Yahweh got angry, extremely angry at his people, and he threw them out of here. He sent them away, and this is what we have in this very day, meaning from the perspective of that future generation. Okay, and here's a famous verse. Let's go back to our paleo. Okay, hanistarot liyahweh Eloheinu all right, lot והנכלות לנו ולבנינו עד עולם, לעשות את כל לעשות את כל את כל דברי התורה הזאת. Okay, cool. So, oh boy. הנסתרות ליהוה אלוהינו, the hidden things are to Yahweh our God, והנגלות לנו ולבנינו, and the revealed things are for us and our descendants, our children, ad olam, until the end of time. So לעשות כל דברי התורה הזאת, to do all of the words of this Torah. Okay, so there's a lot to say about this verse, but basically it's kind of a division of labor, right? Yahweh has his things that he needs to deal with, and we have our things that we need to deal with. And what we need to deal with is keeping the covenant, is keeping the commandments of the Torah, and Yahweh, everything else, that is hidden, that's his business. So I think what this verse is basically saying is just do what you have to do. Nose to the grindstone. Let's not worry about God's realm and all the hidden things. That's his business. What we have to do is keep this Torah. That's really quite clear, I think, what it's saying. Also, we have all of these dots. These are scribal dots. They usually mean that there's an error in the text somewhere, or that something needs to be erased or changed. But the rabbis make a big deal of these dots over lanu livanenu. They think it's from the original Torah, and it has some kind of deep meaning, and they make all of these kinds of mystical interpretations of it. But it's nothing like this. These are just scribal notes, and from whatever text this was originally copied from. I don't know if it was the Leningrad Codex. That's usually where they're copied from. I don't know if it's in there in the Leningrad Codex, but this really, if you ever hear all kinds of bizarre mystical reasons as to why these dots are over the lanu ulivanenu, then you could ignore them all. That's just the nonsense of the rabbis, and there's really no reason for it. It actually might be for Leningrad Codex. I don't know if it's already mentioned in the Talmud, the dots over. I don't know. I'd have to go check. But at any rate, so הנסתרות ליהוה אלוהינו והנגלות לנו ולבנינו עד עולם לעשות כל דברי התורה הזאת. And maybe we should end here. It is kind of getting a little bit late. But I would like to get kind of someone else's take on this. I guess we can go to our old friend Robert Alter, see what he has to say about that. And then I think we're going to end because it is getting late here. What happened here? Oh, I see. It's still coming up. Okay. Hello. So we're going to Deuteronomy 29:29. Deuteronomy 29:29. Oh, where already went up here. Judges, hold on a second. Okay. So Deuteronomy 29:29, the last verse in Deuteronomy. Here it's 28. Again, sometimes the numberings are slightly different. Things hidden are for the Lord, our God, and things revealed for us and for our children forever to do all the words of this teaching. So I'm curious to see, let's see what Robert Alter makes of that one. Things hidden, things revealed. This grim promise of future disasters if Israel betrays the covenant ends, if indeed the sentence is in its proper place, with a gnomic declaration, gnomic meaning like hidden knowledge. What the declaration actually refers to is disputed, but if the relevant context is the preceding passage on idolatry, and especially its clandestine practice, then the consensus of the medieval Hebrew commentators is... I'm sorry, 1 second, please. Just finished off here. Okay, sorry about that. So, okay. Then the consensus of the medieval Hebrew commentators is plausible. Acts of betrayal hidden from the eyes of others will be visible to God, and He alone can exact retribution from them. When such acts are committed publicly rather than in secret, is the obligation of the community to take steps against the perpetrators. One must grant that this construction of the verse is not assured, and the difficulty is compounded by the fact that the two Hebrew words, which mean for us and for our children, have a row of dots above them in the Masoretic text, a device often used by ancient scribes to indicate erasure. Right, so that's what we mentioned. Those are erasure marks, or those are scribal marks. Okay, so all right, so he's saying that he's relating it back to the previous verses, or maybe these verses over here about the person who goes and worships idols, that he thinks he's not going to get caught. And so he's saying, so Robert Alter is saying that this verse is relating back to that, and that Yahweh will figure out the hidden things. And even if that person is trying to hide his idol worship, Yahweh will figure it out. But we only have to deal with the things that we can see with our own eyes that can be proven, let's say, in a court of law. Okay, that's an interesting take on it. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think that because if that sentence were referring back to here, it would have come earlier. Okay? I think this is a more general statement. I think this is a more general statement, kind of encapsulating that same idea, but basically saying that anything that's in the hidden realms, that's Yahweh's dealing. In other words, if Yahweh chooses to punish someone, like he did Job, for instance, then that's his business, why and how he's doing it. It's not really our realm. Our realm is to do the commandments, and if we are to, mete out punishments, then it has to be in courts of law according to rules of evidence, to witnesses for capital crimes, for instance. And we can't start delving into the mysterious realms of why Yahweh does what he does, doesn't do what he does. That's all in, for instance, the book of Job. Okay, so that's the way I see it. I see it as a more general statement, but Robert Alter is specifically relating it back. Well, not himself. He's also basing himself on the medieval Hebrew commentators or Torah commentators. He's relating it back to what we read earlier. Okay, I think we're going to end here. It's really late. We've been going at it for about, oh my God, almost 4 hours. So I think that's enough. Thank God the internet was perfect this time. No problems, I don't think. Any questions, any comments before we end it? I should bring this back over here. Any questions, any comments before we end it, anybody? No? If not, then I'm going to end it here. I will say Shabbat Shalom and Shavua Tov to everybody who's watching. I thank you for joining us, and I wish you all a great week ahead. And Be'ezrat Yahweh, we'll see you again next week. We'll go out with a little bit of a song, maybe that same song from before. You're welcome. And let's see, what can we put on? All right, we'll try this one. No, we'll try this one. I like this one. We can try that one afterwards.
يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب وهل ترى نرجع لوطان ولا نعيش غرايب كل شيء له نظر كل شيء له نظر يا طالعين القصر الفوق يا نازلين سلموني طالعين القصر الفوق يا نازلين سلموني على غزال عيون السود هو السبب في تلف روحي كل شيء له نظر كل شيء له نظر يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب يا حمام بتنوح ليه فكرتني بالحبايب أقدر نرجع لوطان ولا نعيش غرايب كل شيء له نظر كل شيء له نظر كل شيء له نظر
الهجمات المنشية للميادية المصرية، الهجمات المنشية للميادية المصرية، وقال شعوب الدنيا حرروا، قال شعوب الدنيا حرروا. حفر الكنال يا مخاد رجال، حفر الكنال يا مخاد رجال من أجدادنا وأهالينا، والصبر طال على الاحتلال، الصبر طال على الاحتلال، وخير بلدنا ماهوش لينا. حفر الكنال مخاد رجال، حفر الكنال مخاد رجال من أجدادنا وأهالينا، والصبر طال على الاحتلال، الصبر طال على الاحتلال، وخير بلدنا ماهوش لينا. وقال شعوب الدنيا ومتحرروا زي النهار طار 50 سنة، أمنا كنالنا والأعظم أنا، زي النهار طار 50 سنة، أمنا كنالنا والأعظم أنا. الهجمات المنشية الميادية المصرية، الهجمات المنشية الميادية المصرية، وقال شعوب الدنيا حرروا، قال شعوب الدنيا حرروا. الغرب قال ده شيء محال، الغرب قال ده شيء محال، صعب عليكم الإدارة، والشعب قال وما تمام، والشعب قال وما تمام، المرشدين والبحارة. الغرب قال ده شيء محال، الغرب قال ده شيء محال، صعب عليكم الإدارة، والشعب قال وما تمام، الشعب قال وما تمام، المرشدين والبحارة. وقال شعوب الدنيا المتحرروا